Yo, 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 yo. It's up on a Friday night. We back at it again for another edition of the newest podcast in our staple. We got Mike Check, we got the Weekend Rhyme, we got classics, we got Goat Talk, but we got rhymes and reasons tonight. We got a packed house to the night. To my right, we got Leroy. To my left, it might be your left, your right. I don't know. Shit. Super duper. And then we got Servan in the house. What's good, fellas?
Sir,
What's happening? What's really
What's
good?
good? What's good?
What's good? Good. You could be anywhere in the world
Man.
tonight, but you rocking with us. We appreciate you. Tapping in with us on a Friday evening. We got a full show for you tonight. We're gonna talk about some music when it comes to Ye, the artist formerly known as Kanye West. Bully has been leaking on the internet, so we'll speak on that. We'll also speak on the early struggles of hip hop. Where hip hop has come from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and the obstacles hip hop, this culture had to navigate to get where we are today. We'll also talk about vibing music, right? What does that mean? Who falls in the category? And also, we want to kind of pick apart some of the context of what goes on in this space, right? A lot of times we have these opinions on these platforms, and a lot of people, including our audience, say is hate. We want to unpack that. What is hate? What is opinion? And so we're gonna go from there. So let's start off. Fellas. Ye dropped Bully. I was out of town and my phone blew up, and Bully in some shape or form has reached the internets on YouTube. And what was your initial thoughts, Super, on the album? What was your initial thoughts on it?
I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Kanye singing on tracks and stuff like that. So we're gonna just strictly stick to the music for me. I thought the production wise, it sounded like similar, somewhat like the old Kanye. It sounds real nice. It sounds like it could have some potential if he can get his mind right and really stick to the music and write some real raps to it or get some good features for it or whatever he really gonna do. But it's not really a complete album as of right now. And as far as from what I'm hearing, I mean, I see the direction. I like how it sounds. It sounds nice, production wise. So that's really all I can say right now at the moment.
Yeah, I heard the album and I had some thoughts on it, right? So I think Kanye went from being, when he came out with a College Dropout, to Late Registration, Graduation, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, 808s and Heartbreaks, Life of Pablo, Yeezus, all his albums, Donda. He made like music that was commercial. It was commodification of the music, right? It was meant to be enjoyed, meant to be distributed. I think this new phase of Kanye or Ye, it's more, the music sounds personal. It doesn't sound like these are fully fleshed out songs. And you kind of heard that with Lost in the World, that kind of vibe. Kids See Ghosts with Kid Cudi. You kind of heard these like sparse sounds, the ethereal sounds, and things like that. So uh I think Preacher Man was dope. There's a Spanish record on there that's pretty dope. He's got some songs that could be fleshed out, but I think this is an artist that's making personal music. And I spoke to Mike about this earlier. He said, Mike can speak to it on with Servan on Monday, but Stevie Wonder back in the day would get with Sly and the Family Stone, some of those guys, and just make albums that really weren't meant to be consumed. They were just like personal albums. They were just vibe sessions. We're gonna get into vibing in a minute. But this is what it was. I mean, I thought it was a solid effort. I've been reading some reviews. Most people think it's has some elements of a good album, but the old Kanye of packaging music up for us to ride to or to recite, I think these are just his thoughts coming out in a very honest and raw form. And I think this is what it is. Like you saw with Bianca Censori, that record that he did where he flipped that Donny Hathaway sample that's on the internet. So you just see a continuation of him making this type of music. So it is what it is. I think it was some elements there that could be good.
I agree.
Leroy, did you hear the album? What your thoughts?
I heard the album. I don't like it. Okay, I don't like it. As far as this personal stuff, I tried to say 444 was personal. People was like, nah, forget that. Jay is supposed to entertain us. We're supposed to be entertained by Jay. We don't want to hear his personal life. So I don't want to hear Kanye's personal life. But altogether, musically, it's not a good album. It's just
Right.
not.
Well,
The
Leroy, I
song,
was I was
the
one of the
first,
guys that defended you on
hold
this
on.
I was one of the guys that defended you on this pod when you were saying that Jay made a personal album with 444, and Katz was saying it needed to be entertaining, it needed to be the braggadocious Jay, the talking that talk Jay. I said, nah, he's not in that. So I was one of the people that respected him as an artist taking that leap of faith or just that artistic chance to be a little bit more personal. So I've always said that. You know what I'm saying? I've never steered clear on that.
Oh, that's one thing. Even whether people disagree or agree, that's fine. Either way is fine. But uncompleted work. He's been doing this for a while. He's the only one that we're accepting uncompleted work. So let's accept uncompleted albums from all the rappers. You know, if we're gonna accept that from him, then these other rappers shouldn't have to complete no album either. They should just deliver whatever they got in their computer at the time and be like, there you go, that's the album. You know what I'm saying? But from a musical sense, no. I mean, if anybody tries to convince me that this is some of Kanye's great work, good luck with that, man. You know what I mean? It's just not. It started off okay with one song. After that, it's not. On top of the fact, I don't even think he's rapping. I think somebody else is rapping, and he's just authorizing it, just using the AI, the Kanye voice AI, because I don't believe he speaks Spanish that well. It's a Spanish, it's a Spanish version. I never heard Kanye just break out. Yo, I never heard him break out into that. So now you
I
are a
agree with you with
fluent
that one, Leroy.
Spanish speaker.
I agree with you on that one, Leroy. I do
Now your
that Spanish
Spanish
song.
is impeccable. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
that
saying?
got AI.
So
That Spanish song got to be AI.
yeah, all of that. So
He might have learned.
yeah,
He might have learned. He might have learned something, man. Why can't a brother learn
hey,
some new languages, bro? Why can't a brother learn
just
some
what
new
I
things?
heard. Just going off what I heard. That's all. So I mean, and I can't. It's hard for me to separate the man from the music, but just from the music itself, it's nothing for me to really grasp onto. Like, oh, that song right there, that was fire. This song, this concept right there, that was dope. I can't really latch on to nothing because it wasn't there for me to find something like that. So I'm
Right, right,
cool off the album. I'm not going back.
right. Well, Savon, you didn't get a chance to listen to it, but Kanye did pull up this tweet. Oh no, that's the wrong thing. I'm sorry. Damn. Let me get out of that. Hold on. Wrong thing. Wrong thing. He put up this tweet. What did he put? He put. What did he say? That's it.
And your
Hold up.
mother sucking, Jay. You know what I mean?
Uh, he put this tweet up. He says Kendrick was never king, maybe king on the West Coast, but never the king of the world. He never was. Kendrick is a good kid from a mad city, but Lucien went too far with this Kendrick-ish last year and this year. Y'all dumb. Uh, Industry plans to ruin the King of the Underground's album with this rap tone all over the place. I don't know what that means. It's like I just blanked out. Cardi made my favorite music, so I heard Kendrick on it. What I'm saying is not about Kendrick. He just a pawn. Album Not Like Us tanked. The album after Not Like Us tanked. Lucien sent help. So he's been writing about Kendrick for the last few days, saying that he really doesn't like his music like that. Do we think this is opinion? This is getting to our other topic later. Is this opinion or is this hate? Which one is it? So Ron, you can
It's a
take
little bit
that
of
one.
yeah, it's a little bit of both. I mean, he has his right to have his opinion, whatever it is. But it's like if nobody's seeing the pattern, it goes from the attention it was from Drake, and then when you seen that Kendrick collab with Cardi, then you turn your attention to Cardi, and then it's like every rant he picks somebody who he wants to go in on or whatever, and it's just like honestly, do we care about Kanye's opinions on this anymore? I mean, just like a month or so ago, you were kind of dissociating yourself from hip hop, but now you're giving all these opinions on hip hop. So like I I don't check for Kanye's opinion no more. It just doesn't matter to me, man. I just don't care. I really don't care about. I'm not. I intentionally didn't go check for whatever leak today or whatever project he put out. I just don't care enough about Kanye, man. That's where it is. I don't care, man. Every other time he has an album, his controversy is the same formula. And I said it before. I haven't listened to a project from Ye since Life of Pablo. There's nothing from him that I'm checking for that he could tell me that new and refreshing or whatever. I just don't care about his position right now. It's whatever. I just really don't care.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt.
I mean, to be honest, after his moves and talking about people's kids and these latest rants, I'm not. I don't blame anybody from being totally turned off to him. I mean, he acting an ass. We said it when he first started firing off all these tweets and sending out all these messages and whatever he was saying about whoever he was saying it about. It was lame. then, and it's still lame now. So it don't matter who he decide to talk
You
about.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the tactics is lame, and he going to an even lower, lamer level, bringing in kids and all of that. So it is what it is as far as that point. You know what I'm saying? And, like, I don't think that we don't need to give that even no light and even discuss that. Like, I think we should strictly be talking about the music, because other than that, the shit is just totally lame anyway.
Right.
Hold on. Jay, I need to know where you at. And Kendrick. Somebody call you out, Kendrick. Okay? Somebody call you out to the field. What you gonna do? Somebody call you out to the parking lot. Jay,
Hey, but
somebody call you out. He call your kids out. Jay, I need to know what we doing. I need to know. Well, are you gonna step to the microphone now? Now, Jay, you ain't got to, but I mean, kids have sparked some problems in hip hop. You know what I mean? When you bring up a person's kids, that has triggered all type of stuff. So for him to bring that up with you, I need to know, Jay, what we doing? Because I mean, that's quite the call out. Wraith came because Royce said something towards the man's kid, or it was taken that way. Wraith came right after. You know what I mean? So Jay,
hey,
I need to know. Kendrick, I need to
but but
know.
but to answer your question real quick, Ron, I mean, this coming from Kanye, it's definitely both, because he hating right now on everything that he hating on. So yeah, it's definitely hate coming from Kanye, and it is, I'm sure it's probably his true opinion. Maybe, I mean, I'm sure he'll be probably apologizing and saying Kendrick is the greatest in another 2 weeks or something like that. You never know with Kanye. So yeah, and it's hate coming from him, I would say, for sure.
Well,
Yeah. I mean,
interesting, man.
for me, obviously this man is off his rocker. I mean, like, if this was any other person that was talking crazy stuff on the street, whatever, they off their rocker, you wouldn't pay them much mind anyway. I really don't. This guy's not tangible to me. I don't even know this guy from a can of nothing. Probably won't cross paths with him. So that's 2 times more. Well, I don't give a damn. Like, I just
This is
and if I was
Kanye
Jay Kendrick
West.
or anybody, I would entertain it, because the more you feed into Kanye, the more he keeps doing what he's doing. Like, if these media outlets or people didn't react to it and it just made it coverage the way that they do, this stuff will cease, man. But he's sensationalized in a way that it withers. No matter what he does and every step he does, people pick it up, and he knows that, and so he continues it for attention. And it's kind of like, you just have to learn how to ignore the shit. That's the best thing I can say. I really can care less about what Kanye feels, his opinion, what his
But
position is.
Servan, we're gonna
Care less.
ignore Kanye West, one of the
I am
biggest
going
voices
to. They don't have no factor
on
in my
planet
life.
Earth. Okay, all right.
I mean, I
Simple for
think
me.
I think you got to ignore him at this point. It's like the same old playbook, and that's why I'm not even really outraged, or like really. I'm almost desensitized to this shit from him.
Right,
You
right.
know what I'm
So
saying?
so
Like,
so so the so the so the
you
so
know.
the other tweets that get all the attention, I don't really vibe with that. You know what I'm saying? But the ones that's about the music, I think we can unpack the musical takes and see, let's analyze those. And when he puts out music, I think as a platform we cover it because it's about the music at the end of the day. But he had a tweet about Andre 3000 and Kendrick. He put a list of his top rappers in the game. I think that's it. Those takes are interesting, right? From a person that's been in the music game for almost 20 years, his opinion on who's the best in it. I think we could talk about that. I think,
yeah,
you
but
know,
Yeah,
coming from
He
him,
yeah.
Kendrick
though,
Lamar.
he like the wrong guy to want to hear this from. Like
Kendrick
right now,
Lamar.
you don't care about who Kanye think is the best right now. You don't want to hear about his
Exactly.
opinion.
but it's
I
still a
mean,
valid opinion though.
Kanye's
Regardless if we want to hear it or not, I think
outside
it's
of
still a
us.
valid opinion.
It's not a
I
valid
mean,
opinion. You're taking shots at Kendrick Lamar. Everybody Google Kendrick Lamar and see what comes up. Now you're saying he's not king. Google Kendrick Lamar. Now whether you feel he's king or not, what does his impact say? Even if you feel okay, Kendrick's not king, what does his impact tell you he is? You some now
you
now
know,
if you can Google Kendrick and you can overlook all that impact just to make a statement like that, then you are ignoring a lot of impact. He has more impact than a king, literally.
I'm sure Kanye West don't need to Google Kendrick Lamar. You know what I mean? I'm sure he don't
He
need to
should.
Google him. He know.
He should.
You
You
know, and
know,
I'm just gonna say this, man. Like Soup said, I don't. This is the wrong time. I don't care to hear your opinions on music, especially talking about who's king or what. Now, I could honor and respect like Kanye's greatest work in the past and stuff that I liked, and I could even give him his credit for his musical talents in the past or whatever, because he has a gift. I can't take that away from him. The guy he did his thing in his time, but like I don't want to hear your opinion about who's king of rap or any of that. First of all, you're not an MC for real. We know that you are proven to have a team around you to help write your stuff. So you shouldn't even be speaking on this, but you're entitled to your opinion, bro. Like one thing I know about opinions, you can't change them no matter if you present facts or not. Opinions are opinions. It don't make them true. So if that's what he want to do and people follow it, cool. I can care. Bro, I really don't care about Kanye. I really don't, G. Like I just
I
don't
I
like if
think
he
a
wants to
lot of
discuss
people.
his old works. Cool, I could talk his old works all day because that's when I was a fan of the music. That's when I felt like he had some stuff to say and it was creativity there. And whether he had ghostwriters, whether he had a team with him, it made great music. I can't take that away from him. I always say Kanye had one of the best album runs like out of any era. You know what I'm saying? Out of any era, he had one of the best album runs as a solo artist. He's a good artist when it comes to that. But as far as like what he's doing now, I'm not entertaining that stuff. I don't even want to report on it. I don't even want to talk about it. I'm not checking for the new music. I just don't care, bro. I just don't.
I mean,
I'm not
We've
mad.
been tired
I'm
of
not mad at pop
everybody else.
stars using writers. I'm not mad at pop stars using writers because I get why that's happening. Because you want the best product possible. But I think people need to remove their personal opinion because people will be like, "Well, I don't like Kendrick, so that means I win." No, it just means you don't like Kendrick. Do you know what I'm saying? I think we need you. People need to remove their personal. Just like if someone says, "Well, remove your personal opinion of Kanye out the way." I can say, okay, but Kanye's voice is very loud. I have to acknowledge that, whether I agree with it, whether or not. And I have
I don't
to
have to acknowledge
agree with
nothing.
Kendrick's voice is very loud, whether I agree with it or not. I can't take my own personal opinion and say, okay, this is law. Kendrick is not dope. That's not law. That's just an opinion. You know what I mean? But
I
we have to
think
look
that
at reality too, you know?
I think that all this outrage that he getting and all these people condemning him and saying that they ain't never this and never that and all of that shit that they going through, all the outrage is what he wanted. So we feeding right into his
Exactly.
hands. We feeding right into
True,
what he
We talking
wanted
about him
to
right
have.
now.
So, yeah, we
true.
still talking about him right now. So
Well,
it's
see, but
he's getting.
no, but let me just say, only reason why he's a subject of tonight's conversation is because of the music, right? I'm not talking about his controversial
What
tweets.
song?
I'm talking about Bully. I'm talking about Preacher Man. I'm talking about the Spanish
Yeah,
joint. I'm talking about, let me pull up the
The
track
Spanish
listing.
joint.
I mean, I forgot
Yeah.
the names. The names might be different. You know what I'm
Nah,
saying?
I'm messing with you.
The
I'm
names
messing
might
with
be
you.
different, but yeah, I'm talking about the music, you know, and I think there's a discussion about how he created a sound which still exists to this day. You can hear elements on my beautiful dark twisted fantasy. You hear elements on late registration. It's this sparsy, spacey sound that 808s and heartbreaks. He did it on Pablo with Waves. He did it with the Ye album, Kids See Ghosts with Cuddy. This sound
But
is created a
he's
vibe.
not
So I
creating
think we
that.
got to look into
He's
that. I
not
think it's worth
creating
looking
that.
into the sound that he created and the people that he
But
birthed in this generation musically.
when Kanye is doing that, and we could say he created it, but let's keep in mind when he's doing that spacey sound, Drake and Kid Cudi are outside. Now, if you listen to their music, what are we talking about? It's the same. 40 and Kid Cudi have that same spacey element that Kanye is also doing at the time. So I'm not saying who created what, but I'm saying there were other players on the field though. You know what I'm saying? At the same time, you know?
I'll say this, like I mean, like I said before, I think the production sounds great. You know what I'm saying? And I thought the little video was kind of fire with the kid in the ring with the wrestlers and beating him down with the hammer. I thought it was kind of creative and cool and I thought
Hype
it
Williams
was
did
a
Hype
slick.
Williams did that video. So shout out to Hype.
Yeah,
We could do a
I
whole show on Hype.
yeah, I thought that was pretty. I thought it was pretty cool visually. I mean, I watched the whole thing because I was watching the wrestling. You know what I mean? Like watching the little video in itself just to see how it was going to end. So I mean, it was entertaining as far as that aspect. And like I said, I don't think it's a complete idea. I don't think it's done, and then we may never even see it may never see the light of day complete or however it's supposed to play out, or maybe this is it. Like I don't know how to really judge it as far as the album, but from what I heard, I liked what I heard. Sonically, it sounded good.
Yeah. So check it out. If you haven't checked it out, it's on YouTube, it's on Twitter. You might find it somewhere on the internet's Bully. Ye, the artist formerly known as Kanye West, the music. Um, Again, you may not hear it. It may be gone already at the time. Like, it should be vanished. It might be on version
Yeah.
4, version 5. So we don't know what it is. But let's get to our next topic of the night. Now, Super, you've been talking to us about the struggles of hip hop. Now, where hip hop has come from since the 70s, the 80s, and 90s up until now, 2025. Speak on that a little bit before I cue up Ice Cube.
Well, I mean, I brought this subject up just because from some of our other previous conversations when we was talking about like things like the Grammys, guys going platinum, album sales, radio play, hits, things like that. And we got to realize and recognize it. I know a lot of our younger viewers, they came up in a time where hip hop is all they really know. They only know the mainstream side of the game, and they only see what they've been seeing, but they don't really know a lot of the racial hate, the hate from the radio, the political, presidential, politics, and everything that was really involved in holding hip hop back for a while. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't always peaches and cream. You know what I'm saying? Like the by the time the first time that the Grammys made a hip hop rap album category was 1996. You know what I'm saying? And so we talk about this and we like, well, Tupac didn't win the Grammy or whatever. By the time hip hop was even eligible for a Grammy, Tupac was most likely in the grave. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think that we just need to put a little bit of more history to it, and let's follow that line pretty much. And you know what I'm saying, like tell the real story of the real struggles of hip hop to become a mainstream genre and a respected genre.
No doubt. So I'm gonna
Well,
play this. Go ahead, Saran. You say something?
yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I think hip hop is a respected genre just because like what hip hop influence has been outside of just the music itself. Like in everything from selling clothing to products or whatever, they use a form of hip hop in commercials for cleaning products, all kind of stuff. I think hip hop has really took it further than what any forefathers ever imagined it being.
Oh yeah.
I think the issue is, and I said this before, the issue, and it's the same thing as 90s going into 2000s or 80s going into 90s. There's going to be a certain amount of older legends or older artists that will respect what's going on with the new generation, and then there will be some that will hate. And you have to, as a new artist, figure out how to navigate through that. And you, as an old artist, have to learn how to be a beacon to that new generation in the best way you can, or just sit back and let them do their thing. But I feel like there's like a lot of that is ageism that happens in hip hop. Number one, ageism happens to an extent of when artists get to a certain age, to certain people, they're not relevant no more. It's not cool for them to rap no more. You don't see that in no other genre outside of hip hop. Then you also see the older cats hating on the younger cats. Just like cats in the 80s was hating on cats in the 90s, we're seeing it now. But I think they're embracing newer artists a little bit more now than ever. And I just feel like there's a place for everybody. It just needs to be a balance that just needs to be there. And that balance was broken. And we really need to just get back to talking about what we enjoy and less of what we hate. Because when we talk about what we hate, it's not changing shit.
Yeah, let me say this real quickly, Roy, before you jump in. I just want to make this point too about why I wanted to bring this subject up too, because hip hop really is an extension of the civil rights movement. Like when you really look at how it was a fight against fight for the First Amendment and freedom of speech, censorship, racism. And hip hop was looked at before it actually became a genre. Because like I said, the first time it was even up for consideration for a Grammy was in 1996. The first time Billboard even recognized it, I want to say, was around that time as well. You know what I'm saying? Like like where it where it was its own separate category, where it was actually a hip hop category for Billboard artists. You know what I mean?
Are you
And hip
when,
hop didn't get this target on his back until it became social political. You know what I mean? And once people started really speaking on issues and they started seeing that, okay, this shit ain't just gonna be a fad and it's not gonna just be dancing and happy music all the time, that's when hip hop started to get that target on his back.
Yeah,
with
I have a
hip
couple
hop,
of I have a couple of connections between the political world and hip hop, just based on the history. It'll take me a couple minutes, but I don't know what you're going to show on Ice Cube, or if I should wait for you to show that first, or just say what I got to say.
Go ahead, go cook up
It's up to
because cook up.
okay,
I'm gonna play with Ice Cube. Cook up. I'm gonna play
okay,
Ice Cube, and then
no
Savon, you can
problem,
go after that.
no problem.
all right.
So the first thing that happened was hip hop being invited to the White House first. We didn't ask to go up there. They invited some breakdancers up there during the Reagan when Reagan was running, and the breakdancers were up there. That was a connection right there that they were showing you that we need your support. Right now, if y'all don't know about that era and the crack era and what's involved behind the scenes with that, with South America and all that, and Oliver North and et cetera, it gets deep. Right, but I think hip hop was born out of politics because in 1972 in the South Bronx, you got the urban developer Robert Moses. He is trying to put an expressway through the Bronx. At this time, the Bronx is averaging on 40 fires per day. Maybe somebody from New York can let me know why these fires are persisting the way they are. But anyway, the government cuts services and funding, so they're not helping the situation. Um, the area that is he tried to do a thing called the Cross Bronx Expressway, right, which displaced 60,000 residents. Right, this is a redlining area. So redlining means like if you're more than 10% black, it's going to be harder for you to get certain insurances. At this time, the city is on fire, literally, and these people can't get fire insurance. Right, so in total, 250,000 people were displaced. That's 80% of the housing in the South Bronx. And those were impacted by the fires. Now, if anybody has had to rebuild after surviving a fire, I think that's what birthed hip hop. Because when you ain't got no instruments to play, you might grab a turntable. When you ain't got no dance floor no more, you might put some cardboard down and dance on that. When you ain't got no arts and crafts, you may get a spray can. So I think this is what birthed hip hop. Also, you know, after the Reagan era, right? Still on the tail end, Easy E gets a pass up there to the White House to be a part of a special committee. I don't know what that committee does or what else does. Clinton, when he comes in, he has something to say about Sister Soldier. That backlash to Sister Soldier gave him huge political support because he starts using thugs, right? So we're going to talk about co-opting words. And I'm not mad at anybody, but if I say woke is waking our Christ energy and I use a K for the Christ, and someone takes that word and co-opts it, it gets co-opted. Then after that comes the vote or die. Puff was behind the vote or die. That has huge, Hillary uses that to help her. Katrina happens. We all know what Kanye West says about whether he doesn't care about black folks. That put a huge spotlight on the president. Kanye's voice is very powerful. Jay does a performance of Minority Report right before when Obama's campaigning, right? When they see the visual of Minority Report and Jay playing the video of Katrina, that has an effect. The people in Katrina are saying, look, we're asking for food, water, help. It seems like they going to help white folks in their neighborhoods and they not coming to help us. I'm almost done here. So that's a factor, right? Um, and then my president is black drops 5 months before Obama wins. So and even when Obama's running, they ask him what music you're listening to. He says, well, I'm listening to American Gangster because it tells a great story and it has great flow. This is a signaling. Then he says, sometimes people hate on you and you got to brush dirt off your shoulder. When he does this, we all know what the signaling is. You know what I'm saying? So all I mean to say is, whenever you have hip hop, I mean, when you have politics, hip hop has always been there, and they opened the door for that. You know what I mean? So
I agree with you, Leroy. I think you know, like that's kind of like I said, the reason why I wanted to talk about this, as far as just, you know, how hip hop really kind of fought its way to take over the mainstream music industry. You know what I mean? It was a lot of pushback. Everything wasn't peaches and cream from the beginning. Everybody wasn't accepting this. This was
that's
civil
a fact.
rights. You know what I'm saying? And when they thought rap was just going to be a phase, and they thought it was just an extension of disco, and it was, you know, it was happy music, they were very fine with hip hop. They thought it was going to go away. It was going to just fly
Hmm.
by night. And then once the shift changed, and the rappers started being influenced by a lot of the, you know, the Black Panthers, a lot of the Five Percenters, the Nation of Islam, Israelite groups, the subject matter started to change in hip hop, and the whole the cold hard realities, you know, of what NWA was saying, and groups like X Clan, and, you know, females like
Okay.
Queen Latifah, and a lot of that revolutionary rap really became a problem, and they really wanted to stop hip hop at that time, and so they tried to put the name gangster rappers back then. You know, remember that the gangster rappers rappers was against the phrase gangster rappers. You know what I'm saying? But let's get to the clip, Ron, so we can really get into the subject. Fair use, fair use.
Ice
Hold on, guys.
Cube
I'm
right
I'm
there.
queuing it. I'm queuing it up. Hold on.
That is now surrounding the music and what appears to be a new backlash against it.
Well, you know, we've always had opposition because we are distributing information, and the big distributors of information don't like when you distribute uncut information, especially to their children.
What do you mean by uncut?
Uncut, meaning without going through the censor, you know, that this interview might go through, or without being on the editing board, you know, without white people making the decisions on what's being heard, you know, and it's nothing but the truth. And I have to remind America that all of these incidents with the rappers are just allegations. No one's been convicted yet. So, you know, they was just ready with their guns, you know. As soon as an opening came in, all the critics just ran in that opening, and no convictions are made on any of these people, you know, just allegations.
But you know the correlation that people are saying. They're saying that, okay, they sing about this stuff. They sing this gangster rap. They must be gangsters.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, I don't think Al Pacino's a gangster. He does Scarface, and, you know, so, you know, why me? You take a person like, you know, I just don't like the hypocrisy. You know, you take a person like what they call Stormin' Norman Schwarzkopf. He's responsible for way more deaths than Snoop Doggy Dogg is alleged to be responsible for, but he's a hero. So when is killing right, you know? And when do we look at these people as heroes? You know, these are our heroes in the street because they're brothers who are telling us the real deal when no one won't. The news media has their 7-minute skit on what's the real deal, and the rappers give you a whole hour on what's the real deal. And theirs are way more authentic than the ABC or any other networks put together. The white community is way more violent than the black community on a bigger level. You talk on black violence, look at Bosnia-Herzegovina. You know, it's not a black face nowhere in there except in the UN. But you, and white people disrespect their women on a bigger level than black people ever could do. It's a white man that says, well, a woman only makes 71 cents when I make $1. You know, that's nothing black got to do with that right there. So the kids today are really not concerned on really white people endorsing who we are. We're not concerned about that in '93, and I think that we really need to refocus as a community and could care less who looks bad upon us, you know, because it doesn't make a difference. White people have really never helped our situation.
Young
Wow.
Cube, bro.
1993, Ice Cube speaking his perspective about hip hop early struggles. What's your thoughts on that? You told us to play this, Super. What was your thoughts on when you heard this old clip? Fair use, by the way. Fair use. That was fair use. But Super, go ahead and talk about the Cube,
Well,
the clip.
it just shows you like the change in hip hop and the degree that it is, in today's climate. Like I said, where we forget that hip hop really was a revolutionary genre. And once hip hop became revolutionary and it was speaking about police brutality, racism, social economic systems, challenging the power structure, it became a problem for it became a political talking point, and people were, they after hip hop. This is when we started to get the parental advisory stickers on things, and people you can lose your record store back in the day if you sold hip hop. A lot of record stores refused to even put hip hop in their stores if they had the parental advisory sticker. A lot of radio stations refused to play hip hop. A lot of a lot of these, like I said, these prestigious awards, they didn't recognize hip hop for a while. Like I said, Billboard didn't make a rap. Billboard didn't have a single rap category up until 1989 with hot rap single. And this is the first time where they actually even looking at hip hop as a music genre and it's actually being respected. So, it's a lot of, you think about that. 1989 is the first time, but hip hop had been going on for so long. And look how many guys you think within hip hop history have been robbed of awards or robbed of just respect of even being considered a genre and an artist, and or just even being recognized. You know what I'm saying? Hip hop has been through a lot that we just don't really think about in today's time. I mean, look at what Two Live Crew went through. They were the first ones to be, to fight the federal government, and being, they called their album the first one, what was it, Nasty as I Want to Be. That was called pretty much, they called that album obscene, as if it was like the same as porn music. You know what I mean? And they lost the first battle. And so Florida, they banned their music. They couldn't even sell their music there. It was a lot of fights that hip hop really had to fight that, like I said, today we just don't think about. We just don't recognize. You know what I mean? And so, you know, we really need to start thinking about that, more, like especially the younger generation, when we speaking on these having these talks about artists or comparing classic albums. That's the political side of hip hop. Guys like Ice Cube, they help raise a lot of us and make men of us. They had that those messages and those songs were powerful, and I think the other side, or the white society at the time, was against that. You know what I mean? They always want to shoot down within hip hop, and maybe it could have been handled a different way. But I don't know what you really got all fired up for,
Right.
Ron. So I don't want to say too much if you got more in the chamber.
Yo. So like the way I view hip hop, yeah, it's been through a lot. But black music as a whole has always been a message or a depiction of reality in a sense. Yes, it's true that we went through our fights of being recognized on those stages that we were never welcome to. For example, we said we according to hip hop, we got to get the history right. 1989, they did not televise the Hip Hop Grammy Awards. Hence why Will Smith, who won the award, wasn't televised. They boycotted. There's a historic picture with them, Salt and Pepper, Hit and Play, all of them out there. You can see it. It's documented. The next year, they brought them up there to perform, and they thanked everybody who boycotted with them, right? So the Grammys has the history of that along with other award shows. I think it was like the American Music Awards. I remember one year they had Prince win the award, and the award was like best black song. It was like something, it was a crazy category. And Prince got up there and really didn't say nothing. He just, but we have the history of that with awards. But when I think about black music went through it all, but it was always a message of reality. You have to think about before hip hop, we had origins of the jazz, we had soul, we had our hands in country, we had our hands in so much, but it was always a representation of what was going on. There was always a soundtrack of stuff. Like when the Vietnam War was going on, or when certain things was going on. There were certain songs that was like the soundtrack. When the movement of the civil rights was coming, you had a soundtrack going on. So there was always a depiction in the soundtrack of what's going on. That's no different from hip hop. It was black music tend to derive from a spot of chaos that was turned into something beautiful. When we start
That's a
talking
fact.
hip hop and what that derived from, we just are seeing the evolution. We can't make it seem like one era is greater than the other as far as who's doing wrong, who's doing right. It existed in every era in different forms. And the reason why people don't know the history is because the people that have the jewels to hold that history, it's not being shared to that younger generation. And these younger generation just simply don't give a damn. Because there's people that's looking at Will Smith rapping today and they're like, oh, he rap? I thought he just did movies. There are people of this young generation that don't even know of that.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
People
one
like
thing though,
Mitch.
one I
What
don't
are you
think
saying?
one has to be better than the other though. I don't think one has to be better than the other. Where if someone feels this era is better, cool. If someone feels that era is better, cool. I don't think one has to be in conflict with the other. You know what I mean? But I don't want to cut you because I do have a point about why politicians study rappers. As far as how to get them to masses. But you know what I mean? I don't want to cut your
But
thought, but
yeah, like I was saying, like there was always forms of rapping. You know, we got the birth of hip hop. We came through that from the elements of hip hop. But even before that, there was forms of rapping. We have the lost poets. You know what I'm saying? You look at that, that's really a form of hip hop. Those things I was used in black exploitation movies, or what is that? Was that singing? No, it was a form of what we consider hip hop. It was always like a soundtrack to what's going on around that time. And as you can see, I think that's what got lost. Because even with the bad, it's a soundtrack because it's depiction of reality. When that reality starts being marketed in a way where it's for entertainment and it became a business, that's where the stuff has been lost. And we have some of those old elements, but if those are not still being reinstilled, we get what we get when we lose that. So we can still keep that history there. We can still acknowledge it, but we can't be mad at the younger generation that don't know the history exactly because we haven't done a good job as keeping those elements around of the people that are still individuals that's in this game to have that influence to do so. At some point in time, you have to kind of hold the people above, you know,
yeah,
accountable
yeah, no doubt,
because,
no doubt.
for example,
But
there's no
that's
reason
why I
why
don't.
artists right now should still be signing bad contracts. There's enough knowledge and stuff out there
Right,
right
right.
now where no artist should be signing bad contracts right now. Like there's
It,
so
I,
much
it,
Well,
game given,
it
there's so
it
many
depends
stories to
on.
learn from, and it's just
Yeah,
like
it
we
I want
depends
to
can't
go
blame
on
back.
we
what
can't blame one or the
what
other.
you care about. It depends on it. They do know, but if somebody's 15 years old or 18, they're looking at a contract, they're more likely to go off their emotions rather than their business sense. But I mean, there are some good examples. If the youth need some good examples of rappers to look for, they're out there. But that's why I don't want to separate the man from
Playboy
the
Cardi.
music too much because I don't want to separate the man from the music too much because that can get dangerous. Now, if we are, I do think we should go into a more performative space, but I think that the man behind the music has to hold some kind of integrity, being that the youth is following. But I will say this though, the reason why politicians follow rappers is because a lot of what they do they put in writing in bills. What we do as artists, we put that in writing, and becomes the reality in these songs. And also, we have to filter through political walls to deliver a message to the masses. Politicians see that, right? Because their job is to get votes. As an artist, your job is to get a fan base. So you see how these are two very similar areas that use very
Well,
similar tactics. You see what I'm saying?
I,
Because I'm
let's.
speaking in code to, one second, I'm speaking in code to talk to my people and getting the masses of white America to agree without them knowing that I'm speaking in code. That there's an art to that. And politicians know that. You know what I mean? So they study rap. They study hip hop. You know what I
I
mean?
agree with you, Leroy. Exactly what you were saying. Like that last statement you made is exactly and what you were saying, Savannah, about informing the youth. Like that's the reason why we're doing this. That's pretty much the reason why I wanted to do this show to really let them know about how they really feared hip hop as a force. You know what I'm saying? They looked at hip hop as an extension of almost like Farrakhan or something like that at
Well,
the
yeah, they
time,
did.
especially.
They did. They feared it in the beginning, and then once it started becoming popular in mainstream society, they commodified it and they made it dangerous, right? So they took the elements that were subversive of hip hop, elements talking about the culture, the streets, giving that the perspective of reality in those environments. They took that and they packaged it and they made it somewhat destructive as a commodity, right? So they were taking people that weren't really living in those realities and sensationalizing it and really putting out some, and we got to keep it a buck, some negative aspects into our community where it was just nothing but death and dope and drugs and hustling with no context to it, right? So there's people that had context of the hustling, right? So when you hear Master P, the ghetto's trying to kill me, right? There's context in him speaking about him being in Richmond, California, him being in Louisiana. There's context to that stuff, right? We hear Pac rap about it, or Nas rap about it, or Jay. But there was other cats, and I don't want to call nobody out because everybody had to do what they had to do. But there were other people that probably weren't living like that, but they were packaging death and packaging destruction that was distributed amongst our people. So it was a fearful point of view in the beginning, and then they said, okay, let me just package this shit up and just feed them some poison, and then it kind of got out of control.
Yeah, of course,
Like right
of
now,
course.
there's all this wave of emo rap, right? And all this is about this perks and mollies and Zans and all this other. They know what they doing. They packaging this stuff up to get people on this medicine, have them doped up, drugged out of their mind. Ain't no revolution coming from that, right?
And
Ain't no
the
revolution coming from
hypocrisy,
this
Well,
depression and anxiety. It just ain't.
the
one
hypocrisy
quick point before you
around it.
cook, Super.
Go ahead.
Before you cook, America can't tell black people nothing about violence. Because when I look into the history of America, I'm gonna see World War II, World War I, Civil War. I'm gonna
What
see a bunch of battles all around the planet. So you can't tell me nothing about violence when violence is the foundation of this country. It's
no country,
violence.
no the
Who
world.
is stacking the most bodies?
Violence is the foundation of the world, Leroy. America doesn't have a monopoly on violence.
This
You look at
country specifically
every
is about
country,
violence.
every country around the
The
globe.
other countries,
Well,
I don't want to speak to that because we like to have pride in where we're from.
We
Now I
should.
can speak to that and say that yes, they were about violence, and then there also was some corrections made, just like we have made some corrections here too. But I'm saying for most of our time here, it has been about violence. And anybody who would say different, I need you to go back through our whole period of time and tell me what was we doing? What was we were stacking bodies? That's what we was doing. So America has some nerve to tell hip hop about violence. Like,
I,
stop.
and,
I'm gonna let you
and,
rock.
and, and the thing, going back to what you was just saying about the industry and these the record labels now promoting this, we got to really remember that there was a time when Atlantic and Columbia and RCA and Epic and all, they was against hip hop. They were against hip hop at the beginning of hip hop. They wouldn't sign hip hop artists. They were against hip hop. And now when you think of it, look at Atlantic, you look at UMG and all these guys that were really against hip hop. Now they really running it now. You know what I'm saying? Like it's hypocritical how, hip hop had to fight to become this mainstream juggernaut. You know what I mean? And now it's ran by people who didn't even like it in the beginning, who opinions didn't even matter because they
That's
didn't
true.
understand the culture properly. You know what I mean? And they were strictly hating on hip hop from its inception. And now they making their money. Now their money is coming from hip hop right now. If it wasn't for hip hop, most of these companies that was boycotting hip hop, not wanting to put out the music. You gotta think, man, the Ghetto Boys first album, right? The day of when it drops, Geffen Records was their distributor. Rap A Lot was getting distributed through Geffen Records. The day of it dropped, they reneged on distributing it because the president of Geffen, he was appalled by the lyrics and he couldn't understand how graphic and how good and how great the Ghetto Boys could describe pretty much violence in a rap song. And, a lot of the stuff that they were talking about and a lot of subject matter was extremely controversial and considered vulgar back then. You know what I mean? But imagine your distributor the night of your album dropping, they decide that they're not going to distribute it. You know what I'm saying? Like these are the fights that hip hop had that, you know what I'm saying? This is why album sales. This is like when we get to talking, and old heads get to speaking on it. We be like, yeah, man, album sales don't matter because we recognize and remember these type of fights that was really going on back then in hip hop when hip hop was not a mainstream thing. The masses of people weren't with hip hop. They weren't supporting hip hop. They were against hip hop, and some people had good points. You know, some people made some good points. I mean, when we go back and look at like Delores Tucker's war against Tupac, and the way that she was saying that, okay, it's a genre that degrades black women, is going to lead to a lot of degeneracy. She made some good points. She wasn't wrong totally, but you know what I mean, like this, like it's part of it. You know what I mean? It's just part of the total package. When Tupac dropped his first album, when Tupac Who Lives Now first dropped his album, he had the Vice President of the United States, Dan Quayle, telling people to boycott his album and saying that it has no place in our society just because he was speaking on violence. You know, the song "Violent." He couldn't stand that song. He thought that song was a call to kill cops instead of pointing the finger at police brutality and the way that the system is. And so, you know, hip hop it was a political talking point at one time. Just like how now, you know, last year in the election, you know, they had their own political talking points, but at one particular time they were talking about hip hop on the election stage. You know what I'm saying? Like hip hop really had an uphill battle. And like I said, I'm not gonna say everybody was wrong about it, but you know, like I said, this is for the youth. I know
Right.
a lot of
They
us, we
used
know
it
about what
for their
happened, but a
talking
lot of
points.
them don't. A lot of them don't know that.
So Ron, cook up real
Yeah,
quick, bro.
a lot of them don't know that
So
Tupac's first album was boycotted by
I'm
the
a
vice president.
I'm gonna play a little bit of devil's advocate because although you guys have some points, we could say about the people who packaged this stuff up and owned it or whatever. But when it starts becoming a business of hip hop, to keep it honest, none of us own shit. You know what I'm saying? Like it was the same people that is ahead of like what's going on with these record labels are damn near the same people that was ahead of them then. You know, the only anomaly on that was what Russell Simmons was able to do, but how many black label heads did you really have in hip hop for real in the beginning and now, whatever? I mean, you have people who started up in the early beginning, but when it came as big as what we know now, the same faces are the same faces. That's number one. Number two, as much as we like to blame the youth, that has never changed. If we go back 20 years later, they're blaming the youth. 20 years later before that, they're blaming the youth. 20 years later before that, it was blaming on the youth for
I'm not really
somehow.
saying I'm not blaming the youth though at all in this conversation. This really don't even
Yeah, I'm
got
not
nothing to
blaming
do with.
you.
Yeah,
It's just about the things that they just don't think about when it comes down to the growth of hip hop. Like it's a forgotten, like if you didn't live through this, you probably don't really know this as the younger generation. And that's really all I'm really saying. It's not a knock on the
but
younger generation.
like I said,
Most
It,
don't know it
it,
either.
it's
devil's
just
advocate.
an eye opener for them.
To play devil's advocate though, this is us looking at this stuff from today's eyes, man. Everybody was young at one form of time. Let's not act like we don't know the age of what Tupac and Biggie died. You know what I'm saying? Like the same foolishness, the same ignorance that's going on today is the same stuff that's going on then. 3 6 Mafia was talking drug music then, and I was in the 90s. The only difference of then versus now is that shit wasn't cool to talk about in the music then. You know, you can get some cats that's talking about smoking weed, you know, the chronic, all that, but that drug talk, it wasn't cool in the 90s as it has became cool. And the reason why it became cool is because the artists that people looked up to or the biggest ones were the ones pushing that narrative. So it became cool. Back then, you had songs about, you know, not doing drugs and not doing that type of things. It was looked at like I know growing up in Jacksonville, if you was called a baser, those are fighting words. Now these cats are they're rapping about it. They want to be that. So the difference is the messaging. The difference is who are the people that are making things cool, bro. But like I said, the same elements that are existing now exist then. It's
Of
just a
course.
part of who made it cool and who was against it. You know what I'm saying? But looking at today's eyes, when you're older in age and you're the youth or whatever, we have to realize that back then they were wilding too. Back then they were wilding.
I think they're in the
Everything
same
wasn't positive.
boat. I think the youth
I
and the
think
adults is the same
Everything
boat.
wasn't positive.
I don't think they're
this
two
subject
different
really ain't
groups.
about. It's not really about the youth and what they doing and what
It's not
versus what
about the
we
youth.
doing. It's not. It's not. Yeah, it's not really about that. It's just. I'm just saying that it's just. I'm just pointing out the fact that hip hop had its own political enemies and people that were against hip hop. And RJ, I'm not saying this to say that that I'm not defending messaging. Like I'm not even talking about if Two Live Crew was right or wrong. I'm not really even speaking on that. I'm just speaking on the way that hip hop was looked at and in the fight that hip hop had to fight to get to where it is right now, period. You know what I mean? Whether it be getting on the radio,
Hold on.
whether it be getting in music stores, whether it be getting respect as a genre. You know what I mean? That's the real point. It's not to defend.
Exactly.
It's
Everything has
not to
been a
defend
fight,
anything.
but I think we're the same group. Whether you're an
Matt,
older
Matt.
hip hop artist or a younger hip hop artist, I think it's the same group. If it's a violent conversation that we're having, if we're going to be honest, the country moves off violence and is based on violence. That's unfortunately that's where it's at. Who is going to be violent? That's what moves the culture. Now, if we're going to change that, then we could have a discussion about how to change that. I think the first album cover was Whipped Peter. If y'all know who that is, the black enslaved person who showed his back and had his back all torn up, that picture got around everywhere. That's about violence. You know what I mean? And ever since then, before there was gangs, our gangs, there were other gangs out here. Before there was gunslingers from our community, gunslinging was already a thing. Before drug dealing was a thing in our community, drug dealing was already a popular thing. So
Yeah,
we
I
think
think
that it's just true to us, but violence is what this country is.
okay.
Now
Well,
the
we
difference is we are trying to now change it to something else. Now if we're going to change it to peace, that's going to take some maturity on our part, and that's the hard part. Because once we change
Well,
things to peace in our culture, guess what America changes its culture to? So I mean,
here's
we
the
have to
thing.
really
Hip
think
hop is
about that.
still immature. Hip hop is still immature. We're just 50
Uh,
years in with hip hop. And we're just now seeing that it's the biggest that it's ever been, ever, right? But hip
I mean,
hop
but that's
and the
not really
youth is
young, really,
always
Savon, if
gonna
you think
been
about it.
hip hop is
50
still
years is
new.
not really.
you both right.
That's not really,
It is. It's
not really,
still
because
new.
a lot of
You saying
genres
like a
didn't even
young
really
genre?
last that long. It's not really a young genre. It's a newer
That's
genre,
also
but
true.
it's actually for as long as it's been popular, it's been the most popular genre of music, maybe other than like classical music or maybe even jazz. I mean, it outlasted
You're right.
disco. It's outlasted rock and roll. It's outlasted, you know what I mean, bluegrass and the blues. It's outlasted a lot of things. Those other genres of
Yeah.
music don't
We
have
say
50
we
years of
never
hit.
knew hip hop would take it this far. At first, it was a fad. They thought it would be gone here today, gone tomorrow. That's what the older cats were saying. You're right. It has lasted, but 50 years is still young. It really is, bro. 50
Overall,
years is still young. And we're still finding out new ways of how this stuff is going in music, not only hip hop, but in music, period. We went from albums to CDs, from albums to cassettes to CDs to now you have
MP3.
MP3 players, and now stuff is streaming. Like, bro, we're still learning and it's still evolving. And yeah, we could talk about what was then and what was now, and we know the struggles of it. We can't talk about we can't like erase that at all. But we're just as responsible for holding our culture accountable than the powers that may be. Like, we don't have to do the things that the labels want us to do all the time. We don't have to be the ones that go in there and keep on signing these bad contracts. There was a difference with those artists back then. A lot of them really came from nothing. A lot of these artists now that saying they came from nothing, a lot of them didn't really come from nothing. Some of them had the backing or came from areas where they really wasn't coming from impoverished neighborhoods, where they really know a little bit more than those cats from beforehand. Well, some of them already had some money and some time, and there's plenty of resources. So, and they have a whole nother era to learn from. So, like, at this point, anything that's put in the forefront is not only a representation of what's going on out here, but it's also something that we are allowing to be exploited in
Well, I mean, if you want to
money.
if you want to be honest, if we really want to be honest with you with ourselves, as far as like when did revolutionary and like that revolutionary conscious rap die? It died with Tupac. To be honest with you, it died with Tupac, and
Every
I can see
era, we
that.
always have somebody
Well,
that has something that they're standing for.
in
Tupac
my
was the real.
opinion, in my
It was
opinion,
the last
right?
true revolutionary rapper that was socially
I can agree.
political. You know what I mean? And once he died, that whole revolutionary spirit of hip hop left. To be honest
But
with you.
But
we we're
one
we
thing I
hurt
could say
ourselves
about
on
that,
both sides.
Tupac, as much
I
as we love Tupac and he's a legend, he was also contradictory to that too. We know what behind the scenes, what he comes from, what he was birthed through, but the same thing that he preached for is something that he also contributed to as well.
Yeah, Servan, I think anybody who doesn't contradict themselves is not even human. I think if you're human, you contradict yourself based on circumstance. That if you're just
Exactly.
human. So I think everyone has done that. And if
But when we
Super
know
is
better, we
making the
do
argument,
better though.
the arg- that's true. That's true. I think we need to understand that you're a horrible person if you contradict yourself. You're just being human. It just depends on, does your contradiction harm others? No,
I don't like
No,
when we
but
do
look,
that.
to Super's
you could
point,
Listen,
say he
hey,
talked
but
about positive
hey,
and he
listen,
had a
to be honest with you, I think we going a
hold
little
on,
bit somewhere else, and I don't think it's fair to I don't think it's fair because
hold on.
we if we was to say this same shit right now that we trying to say about Tupac being contradictory, y'all would be saying we hating on him. You know what I'm
But
saying?
every
Like I
no,
mean,
human
like
does that.
no. You want to know
I don't.
why?
I
You want to know why I disagree? Every Monday, whatever conversation that comes up, I always talk about hip hop is a contradictory genre. I always say hip hop is walking
Life
contradictions.
is
Just like we
contradictory.
can get songs from Tupac that were positive, that was about something. We also got a lot of songs that was about stuff that was bad for the culture as well. Let's not forget how Tupac died, bro. Let's
Right,
be
but
honest.
Servan,
You
I'm
can
just
have
telling you,
Servan,
two
we
sides
could
to
say the
everything.
same
There's
Servan,
thing. We could
duality
say
to
the
us
same
as
thing
regular
about
people.
Kendrick though too.
Ser,
This is the same thing.
Servan.
That's why I'm saying like
What we don't
when
understand too
when we say
is
the same thing about
our
Kendrick Lamar, the
contradictions.
younger generation have a fit.
But
Like I
we're
said,
we're looking
hip
at
hop is
contradictions wrong.
contradictory. What I'm
We're
saying
looking
is
at
not wrong here.
contradictions wrong.
You could be positive, but you also could be a
We're
negative,
we're looking
a
at
negative influence
contradictions
as
wrong.
well.
If you have one opinion, right, and you have a strong opinion, I will not steal. That's your principle, and that's what you stand on. Let's say you go without eating for a few days, right? So now you're starting to deal with contradiction, because if you see some food somewhere and you steal it, that's a contradiction of your principles. So the contradiction was based on your circumstance. In our communities, our contradictions are a lot of times based in a split second reaction to where we were disrespected, and we react in that situation, that we react in that situation, and it costs us everything. That's the contradiction right there.
Man, I
But I,
listen,
but
man.
there,
I think
there's a part of
we really
human
changing the
biology.
subject right now,
Oh,
y'all.
hold on.
We talking
There's a
about
part of
ourselves, and
human
we really should be
biology
talking about
that
how they
contradicts,
wasn't
that's
feeling
built
us.
into your DNA. But I think when it wasn't just I think Tupac definitely played a factor, but I think the whole conscious wave, because we were super pro black. You had Chuck D out here, you had Queen Latifah, you had the 5% out here. When Clinton comes into office, we are looking for someone that we feel relates to us, right? So he goes up against Sister Soldier, that has a backfiring effect. Then at the same time that that's happening, we're also starting to have a love for jewelry and hip hop. So we're starting to say, hey, peep this watch, peep this chain, peep these diamonds. We're starting to have a materialistic view of things. So both of these things happen at the same time. I think takes away the African medallions, takes away the 5% supreme mathematics. Because what if I'm coming for poverty? I would rather have a fly gold chain. I would rather be driving the Benz than me out here telling you what today's mathematics is. You
And that
feel
was
me?
fed by
So,
that change was fed by the music industry, and that's the truth. That's I agree with you,
of course,
Leroy. That
to
was
sell
fed by
records,
the music.
yes,
And but
yes.
like I said, I want to get back a little bit to some of the points I wanted to make just about the early struggles. I grew up in the era where you probably had, if you was lucky, you probably had one radio station that you could possibly even listen and hear hip hop on. Like it was radio stations that was bragging and saying that we don't play hip hop, and they were catering to you know, to the masses, and to, especially if you lived in a conservative area, they
Right.
was blocking.
And it only changed when Eminem came out, because I remember those stations in Atlanta. They said they didn't play no hip hop. Star 94. I'll call y'all out. Star 94. But when Eminem dropped, shit, it was like they played his music. You know what I'm saying? It was like, we don't
I
play
think
hip hop.
R&B dying off too played a role. When NSYNC and Backstreet Boys started to be a thing, our radio stations was like, how much are we going to play Backstreet Boys until we get back to some real stuff? And I think that it was a calling to get back to some real stuff. So I think multiple things are happening. You
But
know what
now
I mean?
Eminem, but the Super's point though, Eminem was from my perspective, on those radio stations that he was talking about, Eminem was the first person to break through to play it was just playing his records on those radio stations. But go ahead, Super, I cut you off, my bad.
Well, we're really, you know, that's a little bit later on too. I would really say like the first so-called gangster rapper to really get real major radio play, I would say would be Snoop and Dre. I think are the first real so-called gangster rappers where it wasn't like a MC Hammer, it wasn't a Kid and Play or Salt and Pepper. Where this, like, I think that gangster rap really took over and made that major crossover when Snoop and Dre dropped the Chronic and Doggy Style, because those records at that time, that's when you would hear you might hear Gin and Juice get squeezed in on one of those stations that, you know, that don't really play rap typically, but it was just so hot that they kind of caved in. And I think Snoop with the Chronic and Snoop and Dr. Dre with Doggy Style really kind of kicked down the doors for the gangster rap, like the gangster rap genre
I can see
or
that.
or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, it was a lot of soft spoken dance, happy dance music.
LL Cool J.
LL Cool J. It was, you know what I mean? Like I said, Kid and Play, the Fresh Prince, you know, Hip Hop Parade. You would hear Hip Hop Parade. You would hear certain songs, but the first people to make that gangster crossover, what you gotta say, it gotta be Snoop and Dre
I can see
on
that.
that
Like I
major
said,
on a major mainstream level.
like I said, there's entertainment in music. When it became a business, there's entertainment. You're gonna get some fabrications in it. There was probably fabrications before, but you're gonna give it even more fabricated when you know you can market and you can make some money off this. And when I say hip hop is a young genre, it's just like I could say, you could say Pac made positive music, and I can acknowledge that and say he also made negative. It's the duality in hip hop. We're gonna have good and we're gonna have bad. Sometimes are they gonna give the messages? Yeah. Sometimes they're not. We contribute to some of those same negative things that we criticize from what we allow us to be just amounted to. As far as what we fought for, it did come from a place where we had to overcome so many hurdles, but now we have jumped over the majority of those hurdles. What are we doing now to sustain it to where stuff is not going to the way it's going? You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. There's always going to have to be duality. As human beings, there's duality between us. Every day, I'm not hopping on here and I'm going to be preaching some shit. Sometimes I'm going to
Right.
be on here and I'll be with the shits. Like, there's duality to all of us. As far as a personality, bro, like, it just is what it is. That is
I
being
think I think
evolved into music.
a middle ground between No Way Out and Wu Tang Forever. Once you take them two out, and you don't have to use just those two, but I'm taking big albums. So you take No Way Out and Wu Tang Forever. The balance between those two is kind of where we should be. And I'm glad you did bring up Ice Cube, because I think he should be studied on how to be authentic to yourself and come out on the other side winning. I think he should be studied. His music, yes, if you listen to it on the surface, you're gonna say this is the most violent music I have ever heard. When you read the lyrics themselves and take the aggression out, you're gonna see it's a thinking process behind what he's saying. So I think he should be studied. You know what I mean? But a balance, yes, Servan, I would agree with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think at this point we have to look at it for what it is. It's an entertainment source where you get some reality music out of it, where you can get something you can relate to, where you get something that is a part of a movement or something that's going on in real life that reflects reality. Yeah, but we cannot forget that this is an entertainment business. It's no different from wrestling. You know what I'm saying? And when we start holding people to the fire because of the content, it's just like, well, we all were young once. Just like I brought up a point of how young Pac was, how young Biggie was. We're looking at things from today's eyes, and we have to think about what it is for these young artists now that are now being able to be rewarded for their music and newfound fame. We have to give them grace, bro, because just like these people were young, Tupac was young when he died too. The only cool thing about Pac is he got to see a lot and consume a lot to where you got so much from him packed in one. You got to see all his different personalities so young, and a lot of his stuff was prophetic. And sorry, we haven't got that again, but we have to give him grace because we didn't have it all figured out at that age.
You want your kids to be better than you,
I
though.
said, I think
You want your
y'all
kids to
not.
be better.
It's not. This ain't about the youth, y'all. I don't know why we
No.
we go people back
Let
to
me
the
further
youth.
the point.
It's not
Let
really
me
about
further
the
the
youth.
point. Let me further the point. Just like we talk about the artist being young, hip hop is still young. It's 50 years old. So we could talk about the struggles that it went through. We could talk about what it got to now, right? And I know we have a lot of conversations about where hip hop is now. We talk about like the artists. We talk about how it wasn't like the stuff beforehand. We have to take into account, bro. Every hip hop goes through ebbs and flows. It went from the beginning,
At what
them
point do we
folks
stop
that got
giving
to.
grace?
You said what
At
now?
what point do we stop giving grace too? Because just like your child, you're gonna give your child grace. He's gonna mess up, you give him grace. He mess up, you get at
We
some
have to give
point you
hip
put the
hop
hammer
grace,
down though.
period, bro. We have to give hip
At
hop
some
grace,
point
period. And that's
because
why I have to
I
bring up
hate
you want your
conversations
next
like this because
generation to be
to me,
greater than
you
you.
know,
There has
you
to
know
be
what
a
this sound like.
greater
We
than
really
Pac.
saying right
There
now.
has to be a
This
greater
this
than Jay. There has to be
this
a
sound like
greater
a
than Nas. We need to
this
create
sound
the
like a
greater.
conversation that we having where we might be talking about systematic something like that, and then somebody be like, "Well, what about black on black violence?" Let's just talk about let's just stay on what I'm
We
just
got it.
saying.
We
What
got
we talking
both.
about as
We
far
got
as
both.
just because it's not. I'm not attacking the youth for not knowing about the pushback and the political struggles that hip hop went
The
through and the
adults don't know
censorship.
either.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of us
The
don't
adults
know.
don't know.
That's really so.
Oh,
I'm not saying this to shame the younger generation, but I said I want to just I'm bringing this up because, like I said, that the first time that rap was even a best rap album category to even be able to win, it's 1996. Like
That's
that's a
not
lot
true.
of
Right.
That's not true
that is
though.
true. It
And
is.
No,
speaking
it's not. It was
That's the first time.
1989.
and speaking
No, that was hot single on the
No,
billboards.
it wasn't, bro.
No, the first time rap albums was ever had a category at the Grammys was 1996, and it was won. The best rap album was won. The first best rap album was won by Naughty by Nature, Poverty's Paradise. That was the first year they even had the category.
That wasn't the first time hip hop was recognized. They were televised until 1990. The first people who won in 1989 was Will Smith.
We not. I'm not
Are you
saying that
talking about
they.
a subgenre? Are you talking about that
Savon,
specific genre? Or are you talking about
Savon,
hip hop being recognized?
Savon.
Period.
I'm speaking. I'm strictly talking about as rap album even being considered a category for them was 1996. That's the first time where someone can win best rap album. That was the first year. Now Will Smith won
you
Grammys.
both can be
He
right.
did.
You both can
Will
be right.
Smith won Grammy. He won a Grammy for his song, but there was no category for rap at that
So
time
you're talking
except
about for
for
rap album? Are you
Okay,
talking about specifically a
yes,
listen,
rap
listen.
yes,
album?
just
Okay.
specifically for
Oh,
rap album. Just specifically for rap
we
album.
we go we gonna have to go
1996
to a
was the
new topic at some point.
yeah.
No, no,
But
no, no,
just
no.
hold
Before we go to a new topic, we still
on.
want to talk about the struggle a little bit. I want to play this Delores Tucker clip real quick, and then we can unpack that, and then we move on to the next topic. Hold up. Hold up.
Now we want to hear from the president of the National Congress of Black Political
Fair
Women,
use, guys.
which
Fair
I had
use.
something to do when it was founded, including help to found it.
Are to be commended for their foresight in addressing the #1 domestic problem in this nation, violence in America. The National Political Congress of Black Women is a nonprofit, nonpartisan. Our mayor of this city, Alexis, imperative that we stop the agendas that are not too relevant as this, that we stop pondering over the issue of space exploration, that we stop debating whose diary we should publish. Violence perpetuated against women through the music industry in the forms of gangster rap and misogynist lyrics will not be tolerated any longer. Principle must come before profit. A year ago, I established the National Political Congress of Black Women's Entertainment Commission, headed by Dionne Warwick, Melba Moore, Terry Rossi of Billboard magazine, and Vaughn Alexander, our director. It had one primary goal: the task of examining and developing strategies and solutions for reshaping and maintaining positive images to preserve the dignity and the heritage of our youth. Instead of continuously exposing our youth to negative media that distorts their images of male-female relationships, that undermines the stability of our families, communities, and nation by encouraging violence, abuse, and sexism as acceptable behaviors, and perpetuates the cycle of low self-esteem of African American youth. Thus, images that degrade our dignity and are an insult to our children, our families, and communities concern us too. And that includes all this gangster rap and misogynist lyrics. Music that glorifies and promotes violence with guns, knives, or drugs, and denigrates and defames women. And with the release of Snoop Doggy Dogg's debut album, Doggy Style, that includes artwork that is nothing but pornographic smut, available to any child to go in and buy with the album and with a record. That has got to stop. You want to know why I'm on the warpath? When I saw this, I said, that's it. We march again, and we're going to keep on marching and demonstrating the truth stuff. For 400 years, profit came before principle, as black women bore the brunt of slave masters' degradation.
Yeah,
All
that's to
right.
say that's cool, Ron.
Yeah, that's good
So,
right there.
so Suki was right.
In the
Best
long
rap
run,
album, yeah. I misunderstood you earlier, but yeah, best rap album. You're right. It was '96.
and you
Just
know,
want
in
to
the
let you
long
know.
run, I think no, it's all good. In the long run, I think Delores Tucker was really right too. When you really
I
look
think
at,
all of
because
them were.
really she was talking. She wasn't
He
really
was
even
right.
really.
Yeah.
When you really go and really do more research on her and what she was really saying, she was talking about the corporatization of rap and the promotion of that type of music. You know, it was, you know, she not, if you really notice, she not mentioning Public Enemy, she not mentioning X Clan, she not mentioning, you know what I mean, like she not
They
mentioning
were
Queen Latifah.
positive.
Yeah, she mentioning those guys in the corporation, in the industry takeover of hip hop, promoting that style of music. And in the long run, she was right. You know, she made some good points. But
Yeah,
at the
she was
same
right
time,
then.
you know, yeah. You know, and she was
What were
boycotting.
those artists doing at that time? They were pushing back on it, whatever, and she was right. That's what I'm saying. Young, you gotta let them be young and
But
figure
That
it
was
out. And that's what we gotta give it
but the
grace.
way
Savon, I think you're defending the youth when the adults are doing what the youth is doing. So it is no real difference there. But what I think the main thing that we have never got over, and after 50 years we should get over it, is like I was saying in the chat the other day with just us in the text, that we're trying to mix oil and water, and just because it sounds good, we keep selling oil and water. At some point, we're going to have to take the oil out and just sell pure water. And
The
we keep,
reason
well, Clarence 13X, he went into the streets to grab the gangsters and the youth because he could explain the Nation of Islam better to them. Tupac, he went into the streets. He's an educated brother from a performance arts academy. He gathering the people trying to pull them out. Nipsey, he went into the street. At some point, we're going to have to start cutting ties with the street. Now, that doesn't mean that you are not still in relationships with them. What that means is we're going to have to stop selling the oil in water, and we're just going to have to just sell the water, the pure water, because we keep
look,
drinking oil with water.
it's just this simple. Think about what time frame Delores Tucker was having that conversation. We
The
loved
90s.
at once you guys were young, they was listening to artists. You pushing back, you rallying for them artists that's going against her, right? When you get older, we can now say, oh, she was right. That's why I said we're looking at it with today's eyes. Just like the older people of today will look at this younger generation, they're saying whatever, and what are they doing? They're pushing back. It's just a funnel of the same things, just an involvement with how
Because
bad it
it's
got.
no
It's
different. It's the same
But
thing.
but
It's
but like I said,
it's just
it's
the same
just
thing
that
reheated.
people, you know, since the industry has taken over hip hop, people don't get outraged about nothing no more. You know, once the corporations came in and hip hop became a cash cow, all of our discretion went out the window. You know what I mean? You know, there is nobody really fighting against hip hop right now anymore. We got people doing devil worshiping seances on the stage. We got, you know, hip hop is
It's drugged
embracing
out. It's
a
drugged
lot of
out. It's pushing
We
the
drugged
are
business.
out,
making the music. We are making the
beef.
music they sell.
People,
We make it.
You got rappers. You got rappers pissing on people's grave sites and shit now. You know what I mean? Like we like the whole destruction of the
This
culture.
is what I'm
What
saying. This is an evolution of what they seen and grew up on at some point in time. Because I'm pretty sure the rappers of today probably seen somebody beforehand, and they just are taking it further than what they did. You know what I'm saying? Like you have
But
some artists that
Sirvan,
came
since
after
you want to
50
stay
and look at
there,
what 50 did, and they just was thinking, how can I take it further than 50? You know what I'm saying? Like this stuff just didn't come out of nowhere. They was wilding in too.
but
It just looks different
okay, but
because
since
we're
you
talking
want to
about
stay
what was
there,
done there
because
versus
we
now.
have
It's just
not moved from that one position, we're still, since you want to stay there, our generation also produced Wu-Tang Clan, also produced Common Sense, also produced Black Star, also produced X Clan, also produced Chuck D, also produced, you see that we had KRS-One, Queen Latifah.
but
We're
there's also a
producing a
lot of
lot
things.
of the
You want to
we're
know what a big
producing, so
difference maker is?
the youth has the internet, so they're connected to information. When we grew up, you had to physically be outside because there was no internet for you to
And
gather
that
your information
and the internet,
from.
that's why I said the
the
internet
the
destroyed the
youth
music.
the
The
youth
internet destroyed the
Okay,
music
Just
business.
imagine.
Social
but
media has destroyed the music business because you have too much it's too
do we
much
give a
information
child?
for these artists.
How much
You know what I'm
Just
saying?
when the
imagine how
child is
much would have been
25,
exposed back
when
then
the
if they
child
had
is
social media.
25, do we still give the child grace? When the child is 30, do we still give the child grace?
Bro,
When the child is 35, so we are 50 now. How much grace? Because I'm not attacking the youth, but what I am saying is you have so much power and access to information, and that you are a little bit different. And if I expect you to go further, not better than Tupac, if I expect you to live longer and go further, that should be an aspiration of yours, because I'm actually helping you by giving you the Pac story, so I could say, okay, don't do this, don't do that. I'm helping you with the big story. Don't do this, don't do that. But if I keep giving you an excuse, because that they gave the generation, the first hip hop generation is the first time we start making money. I'm talking about the big rappers. They never seen millions of dollars. So we gave them an excuse. Oh, well, you're just the first time you ever seen no real money. So gangbang on them. You come straight out the ghetto. But now we've seen the Snoop story, and the youth have more control. So you gotta be better than us, youth. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to be better
I,
than us. It's not that I'm looking down on you, it's that I have such high respect for you, that I'm expecting so much because of the high level of respect I have for you. You know what I
I
mean?
want to just say this too, real quick. Squeeze this in too. You know, like I said, I believe that after Tupac died, that revolutionary spirit left hip hop for a while, and then I would say the next person to really give us that revolutionary spirit in mind, or that reminded us of that, was Kanye West, and that was part of his appeal at the time. That was one of the main reasons why people kind of flocked to him, because he
I'm
had
gonna
that
I'm gonna go
revolutionary.
Nipsey. But,
He had
you know,
he had that, but that's after Kanye though. But Kanye kind of revived that revolutionary spirit in hip hop, that was missing since
but
basically
super,
Tupac died.
super,
To be honest with
super. This is why authenticity is important, though, because Kanye West will tell you himself that he's fake. That's him telling you himself that
I
he
mean,
was
regardless
faking
of
that.
that, I'm
Now,
not even going.
now,
I'm not going into that.
before
I'm
we
just
go,
saying
before
that
we go,
that he did fill that void for us. It was a reminder
he
of that
did. He did.
revolutionary
He did.
spirit in
We're
hip
gonna
hop.
give him that respect. He did do that because he made a level. He made a balance to the gangsterism. So he did do that. But when
I
it
want to
comes to
know.
being authentic, though, once you get someone like Nipsey on, off camera, or the way, you're gonna find out that he's authentic even when he's not on stage. And see, that's a different type of individual. He's authentically living and doing what he's doing. Now there's levels to everything, and I'm not calling Kanye a complete liar, but when he comes in doing certain things, he's just juxtaposing. Before Kanye West was outside, it was a bunch of underground artists talking about let's make college kid rap. They was already talking about that. And then here comes the bit. I'm not saying Kanye doesn't get credit, but he knew what was going on underground. He listened to Little Brother. You know what I mean? He listened to other artists outside. But you have to be authentic though, because what happens when something bad happens? Now we're looking at you for authenticity. He did stand up during Katrina, and we respected that. We respect that, but that's because we respected his authenticity too. You know what I mean? Now I don't know if
So
we can look at him as authentic. You know?
I want to say this, like when y'all was in y'all early 20s or whatever, and old heads try to like come to y'all and correct y'all, how like receptive were y'all to it?
To
That's
be
a
honest
young
with you,
argument still, Sirvine. You're
I,
still making a young
I,
person's argument. The
but
young and
that's
the
a good
old is
question.
the same group.
That's a good question, Leroy. That's a really good question. You know what we did when they came to us? Because really, a lot of the older guys kind of, it was a bridging of the gap because we still respected. We always had that respect for like old school music anyway. We grew up listening to James Brown. We grew up listening to Earth, Wind and Fire and Rick James and stuff like that anyway. So when it came to like an old head like arguing, it really wasn't. By the time like a Nas came out or whatever, they might be like, "No, he's not better than Rakim," and he not. What we did was we went back and listened to the music, and that's how a lot of us right now have that type of respect for Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, Kumo D, KRS-One, X Clan. A lot of us had that respect because we were told to have that respect. You know what I'm saying? And it was always a part of how we always took music anyway. We always had that link to old school music. This generation now won't like something just because it's old. We embrace stuff that our parents like. My mama liked Sade. I grew up on Parliament. You know what I mean? So it
Prince.
just became, Prince. It just became a part of our way of life in a way. You know what I mean? We
We
didn't reject it.
real quick, we have to mature too. Also though, and even in our age, because when we saw Prince, we had certain notions at the sight of him. We had to mature and figure out. Well, no, that's an artistic expression. Now, I'm not saying we have to do that with everybody we see, but what I am saying is we had some wherewithal to say, okay, no, we respect his artistic expression. You know what I mean? So I don't want to attack any group. We spend so much time attacking to where we're dealing with the same issues in both eras. So I just want to get past the issue,
So if
you
you
know?
guys are the ones that allegedly listen and respected that or whatever, and you guys are at the age where you guys are the parents of this generation, where was the gap? What fucked up there? You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
What was the need to
Technology
control the
is
material?
Yeah,
the
No.
technology gives my kids way more
I
I'm
access
explained it. I
to
explained it.
information
I explained
I
it several
24
times.
hours a day.
I explained it several times. Social media eviscerated thought and expression. When you had social media from the MySpace to the Black People Meet, then the Facebook, and then the Twitter, and then IG, that changed the way people connect. That changed people the way they interacted. That's why you don't have any rap groups. You don't have any rock groups anymore because everybody's individualistic now, and they're in their own echo chambers and their silos. So it doesn't foster creativity and collective communal thought and communal space and communal creativity. That's what social media killed it. You got YouTube killed it. There's no video shows anymore. You know what I'm saying?
it's
It's dead. So there's the space change and it reprogrammed the
To be
mind.
fair, to back up what
I,
Servan is saying, though, Servan is saying we were involved in the same activity that the youth is involved in,
No, we
and
weren't.
he's correct.
We
He
weren't
is
involved in
correct
the
no,
same
in the
we
fact
activity.
we weren't.
when it comes to
Listen,
violence,
But
we were
no,
involved in we were involved
but
in
no,
violence.
but the violence changed
You know what I'm
when
saying?
you started going against your ops on Twitter, right? That changed. So if somebody put up a tweet, then they roll up and that was a little bit different. Information traveled a little bit slower pace back in our day.
That's true.
Now somebody put a
That's
video
true.
out waving gun and waving their set and talking about the ops because they
That's
get
true.
killed off a YouTube video now. We wasn't killing people off YouTube videos back in the day.
I,
We wasn't
hold
killing
on.
folks off tweets. We just
I
weren't.
got you.
Let
But
me
we
get
were
this
still
point in.
involved in just certain acts. You
Let
know what
me
I
try
mean?
to answer your question, Savon, because I got a different look at what you're saying. Okay, I think that what really happened was, I think we always talk about agendas, man. I think that the ageism is a part of an agenda, to be honest with you. I really do. I think that it's a plan to try to separate the youth from the old and make it where it's uncool to listen to old people. And you know what I mean, to respect something that's older than in its generation. I mean, if you really look at it, the reason why I say that it's an agenda, because if you really look at like a lot of the cartoons and like the, not even cartoons but shows, you know, like that how they promote and show like the adults on the show, like on the shows now,
Right.
like the kids are the mature ones, and the adults are the goofy, stupid ones. You know what I mean? It's like I think it's an agenda to have kids
Boondocks.
not respect adults. Yeah, even like the Boondocks. Yeah, even the Boondocks. You know what I mean? Like the kids were smarter than the grandpa. The grandpa was just the old fool. You watch shows like, you know, my kids used to love Zach and Cody. Zach and Cody was smarter than their parents. Every adult was dumb as hell and goofy and not worthy of listening to, or just, you know what I mean, old school. You got shows where it's kids counseling parents on how to accept new things, and you know what I mean. So I think that there is an agenda for out here for pushing kids to reject anything that comes from the older generation.
Hey,
To
let
be
me
honest,
read the super chats real quick. My mere thoughts with the super chat says hip hop ain't been the same since snap music. The later led to mumble rap, which led to drill rap. Now we are left with Cardi. We left with Cardi. Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says it's worse today. Nowadays, wealthy middle-aged rappers still rap about spinning the block on the ops or 50 trolling Irv after his death type energy. So, hey.
I
mean,
mean,
and you know,
the youth still gave
the
us
youth.
Kendrick Lamar. It gave us Big Sean. It gave us J. Cole. It gave us Nipsey Hussle. I mean, he's not the youth, I guess, but the youth gave us some things too, though. You know what I mean? So I mean,
Man,
we
they
just got to
all
still be
Hip
pushing
hop,
objective
40.
hip
They
about it.
all
hop.
pushing
I
40,
was just
Leroy.
gonna say that. Like hip hop ain't really youthful like it used, like it was. Where
Came
are the
out when they
two?
were in their early 20s.
They
When
did,
Drake
but you
came
know, I mean,
outside.
but look, like even like a guy like Kendrick, right? And we ain't got to go back and forth. It's not no knock on him, so I don't want to start no trouble or no sidebar talk. But the guy is 37, 38 years old and only got what, seven albums plus mixtapes or whatever. You know what I mean? Like when you look at his discography for his age, it's not, you know what I mean? It's not how it used to be.
But he
You know
was
what I mean?
young.
Like,
He was young when he came out. He was
yeah,
young.
but just
These
imagine
guys are
when a guy
older
that
now.
you know, yeah. So I think that it used to be youthful, but you know, Future 40, most of the guys that are mainstream guys and they 40 years old. The youth is
So
the female
y'all,
right now.
so what you guys are saying is you're saying that the agenda for the young to disrespect the old just start happening with this generation.
No,
No,
what we're
that's not
saying,
what we're
what
saying.
we're saying is the internet and social media expedited the agenda, right? So it made the agenda more expedient and it proliferated it more, right? So now there's a tool to spread the agenda via social media, IG, Facebook, YouTube. That made it more effective to spread the communication out
and it
to
and it
push
made
the
it and
agenda.
it actually made it cool too, to be honest with you. So it made it cool to reject the past. Like I said, we watch videos of them. We done with the 90s. And then, you know, they talk and they
Right. But
disrespect Michael Jordan and they disrespect
take
I
Michael
hear
take
that.
all
Jordan.
the factors out.
I see them
Take
embracing the '90s more than anything right now.
But
They do
you
that
know what
too.
I'm saying
They do
though.
that
There
too.
is an effort out there to disrespect the past. You know what I
The
mean?
first,
Like
Yeah.
the
even with
first,
Take
the,
even
all
with the
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 old
extra
first,
factors
the
out.
first dude I heard,
Take
the
all the
first
extra
heard,
factors out. Right. We keep looking for an out. Let's have no more excuses. Let's say all the excuses are done. And now we're going to understand human behavior. When you have somebody who doesn't have a lot of money, who is in a violent area, who doesn't have a lot of access to things that can help him, jobs, food, healthcare, education. What you're creating is an individual that is going to respond to adversity in a savage type of way. So I don't want to I don't want to give the industry, I don't want to use the industry excuse. I don't want to use the agenda excuse. I want to understand human nature. Now, if he reacts in a violent neighborhood with violence, I can blame him for what he does based on his actions. However, We have to understand if we're going to change that, we have to understand what contradiction is. Contradiction is a middle ground to where you make a choice based on circumstances. From what I hear, what we're trying to get at is we're trying to make hip hop be more responsible. In order to do that, we're going to have to start eliminating excuses. The more excuses we eliminate, the more responsibility the culture is going to take on.
Yo,
You know what I mean?
I just
So,
think
but when you don't have
I,
no money, you're going to react materialistically. Why? Because you didn't grow up with money like that. So when you finally get a little bit, you are going to be materialistic. If you weren't taught how to deal with women, you might be you're verbally smacking women. If you don't know how to deal with drama, you may be just busting your weapon because you have never been taught. But I'm not just going to blame you like that. But hip hop is going to have to start addressing just the responsibility of the people themselves without the excuses.
you know,
You
the
know what I
first
mean?
person I'm gonna let you cook real quick, Savannah. So the first person I heard disrespect of old rappers on record was, and maybe I'm wrong, was Jimmy and Cam. Because I remember Jim used to be like, "Y'all old niggas are sick." And they washed up. He was dissing like Jay. I think
I mean,
Game was dissing Jay
While
by
he was
calling
on
him old.
Rockefeller.
You know what I'm
hey,
saying? So I remember that back in the
Tupac,
day.
Tupac kind of did it when he said niggas looking like Larry Holmes, flabby and sick. You know, he
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
did it a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit,
Okay, okay.
but you know, but what the difference really is that like Leroy said before, there was no social media making funny videos and showing like, yeah, this is how rap sound in the '80s to kids, and you know what I mean. Like there's a push and it's a trend really to just disrespect old stuff. It just is right now for the youth. It's something funny to them. It is what it is. I don't think
Yes,
we ever had
everything in America
we
is
never had
about profit.
disrespect for we never had disrespect for James Brown or the Temptations or you know what I mean or LL or Slick Rick. We never had disrespect for them. You know what I
But
mean?
we
I think it's
disrespected back
blatant
though when
disrespect.
they dissed us, when they said our music wasn't music, we did diss back like, oh, our music's not music. Okay, y'all music is trash. We did throw shots back though. You know what I mean? So this is a constant thing. You know, but what we have to understand is you always gonna think the different person is your enemy until you have to hang out with that person. You could say, I don't like this group, then you work a job where you have to work right next to this person that you didn't think you like. Well, over time, you're going to start building a human connection. Now you realize, oh, this person is a human. You know what I mean? And what we
I
haven't
think
done
Savon's
between older and younger, we got to recognize we still human. We looking at this is old guy, this is young guy. No, that's just a human, bro. You know what I'm saying? That's a
I
human.
think Savon's questioning that he's asking us right now really leads into the next topic that we really got too. But you know what I mean. So if y'all want
Yo,
to wrap
tee
up
it
the
up, tee it up, tee it up, tee it up, Super. What's the
I
next
mean,
topic?
you know, well, I just want to say my last words on this, and like I said, restate my purpose of doing this. And like I said, the reason why I even brought this up, and I thought it was even important enough to even talk about, is because, like I said, we are in a new age. Hip hop is now 50 years old, but like I said, we don't. A lot of times when we think about these things, when we say like, "Oh, they don't have Grammys, they didn't go platinum," um, they, you know what I mean? Like when we start thinking about that type of stuff, we got to start thinking about some of these things that we've pointed out today in the video. You know, like the Grammys not even having a rap album category until '96. The first hip hop Billboard not even recognizing hip hop as its own genre until '89. You know what I'm saying? So like we got to start really have some of that information when we do start saying, well,
Yeah,
Tupac never
educate
won a
yourself.
Grammy. You know what I mean? Like Tupac was dead by the time that they was even eligible for a Grammy. You know what I mean? And that's really the purpose. It was just to educate and let them know that hip hop went through more than what you see right
Of
now with
course.
it being, you know, the shit. You know, hip hop wasn't always the
Well, let's
shit to people.
put a period on that segment. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Because
I'm just gonna say at the beginning of the conversation, I said, yeah, it needs to be the older ones establishing the history and making it known there. But I think just as that needs to be done, they need to embrace the youth, because once you're out of touch, there's no getting through to them. It's not. You have to kind of see stuff from their lens in a sense and kind of break through in a way where you guys could connect on that. Because otherwise, you're always going to sound
and
like the old
informal.
heads talking to
I
young
mean,
kids
but
that
I
are
can't connect when those seances on those stage, man. I just
But
can't.
that's not a representative of everybody that's young, though, man.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Hey Jackson,
Our generation did that
I
too. Our
see Jackson
generation
in the
did that.
comments. I mean, it's not about getting mad about nobody not knowing nothing. I think I said it's just about informing them about those things. Like I said, a lot of people, you will hear somebody say Tupac never won a Grammy, but by the time that Tupac died, he couldn't win Best Rap Album for the Grammys because it didn't even exist. The category didn't exist for the Grammys. And that's really, like I said, it's just informative. You can't get mad that they don't know, but we
So
can
like,
inform them.
but yeah, we gotta be that, but we can't be contradictory. Like we didn't like the old heads wasn't young and they wasn't wilding at some point in time too. Just like we could give praise
I
to
have to
what
be contradictory.
Uncle Luke.
I have to be
No,
contradictory for you to understand me. If you're
because
in the street,
look, it's gonna
Devon,
be
I have to prove to you that I'm a street guy in order for you to understand me. Right? You
bro.
keep
This is what
saying
I'm
that
saying.
we contradict ourselves. That's just human
Yes,
life.
this is why I'm saying it's a contradiction. We all were young once. We did stuff when we were young. We got older. We learned from that. We're old enough to know better. But the messaging that you have to put to the youth is not criticize them for what they do, as if your past was perfect and you wasn't young. It's to level with them and let them know, yo, I wild out too, and this is my result of that, and finding a way to connect with them. Not telling them what they do is wrong, like you was always positive. That's not gonna work, bro. They're not gonna try to
Here's
hear
the
you.
problem,
They're
Servan.
acting like
Here's
this
the
new stuff where them talk. First of all, I see more of older people talking about the younger people than I see younger people talking about the older people. And then, honestly, if you want to look at who's acting a fool most on social media, it's not the youth as much as you think. There are grown people that is doing that. I
here's
see
the
a lot
problem,
more
Servan.
grown people making fools of themselves on social media than I do the
True,
youth. The
true.
youth don't
That's
know no
true.
better. Y'all grown asses know better than been doing
True.
the things that y'all are doing.
If I
So
give you an
in
out,
order for
though,
us to teach,
if
we
I
can't act like we're squeaky clean. We have to acknowledge
we're
what we're
not,
doing beforehand and find a way to break
we're
through and
not,
connect with them, because we ain't perfect. Just like you
we're
say,
not
those
acting
we
squeaky.
never heard of younger artists and older artists, and what the hell was LL Cool J first beefs were about?
We're not acting. The problem is if I give you an out, right? If I say, if you're in the street and I say, well, here's supreme mathematics, and there's no discipline, right? I'm not going to hold you to any discipline. I'm just giving you knowledge, and I'm going to understand if you make mistakes, right? So I'm going to be understanding. Then you go out there and get yourself hurt. You see what I'm saying? Well, what that is me. I gave you so much understanding that I never broke through to you. Had I been steadfast on, I can't give you too much more understanding. I'm gonna have to be firm on my decisions with you. See, now when I'm firm, it could save your life. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not moving anymore. So at
I'm
what
telling y'all,
point?
man,
At some
y'all have
point,
to learn how
Savon,
to
I
break
have
through
to
to
be
them, or unless
firm.
y'all gonna sound out of touch, man. I'm telling you, y'all have to learn how to
I
level set
know,
with
but
them, or
the
y'all gonna be
older
out of
people
touch. They ain't
sounded
gonna
out of
listen to
touch
y'all.
to us. The
Right.
older people sounded out
Let me get to
of
the
touch to
super
us.
chat real quick. My mere thoughts with the super chat says, once the big three reign is over, I don't know where the essence of hip hop will reside. Yeah,
We got this.
we're not really seeing the next wave of artists coming up. You look at Rock Marcy, he old. J. Cole is old. Big Sean is
I won't
old.
say that.
Kendrick is old. So we don't know the next youth movement. And again, and we're always looking for new music. So if there's some new up and coming rappers, please email us at info@accordingtohiphop. But I don't know. I don't know where the new wave
It's
is
not
at.
that they're old like that. It's that they know what to do with their money. To be an artist today, you're gonna have to be a businessman, a legit businessman. If you're not a businessman, you're not an artist
La
today.
Russell, La
So
Russell,
a lot
La Ru-
of the youth, I'm not talking. I don't want to talk about just one. Respect to him, but not just one guy as the overall archetype for everybody. But what I'm saying is, you're going to have to be a businessman today. You can't be just an artist. So a lot of what we see in the age today with the artists like Big Sean or whatever, they have grown into being businessmen. The young artist of today is an artist, yes, but is he a businessman? He may not be. In today's music, the labels ain't there to help you. So you have
I
to
see
be a
more young. I
businessman
see more of these
because they're
young
not even
artists where
there.
money plays way more than ever. So, like, yeah, we could say there's a lot of
But
stuff going on, but I see these young dudes getting money outside of hip hop. They have found a way how to monopolize
But
and
that
how to be
they're
entrepreneurs, man.
businessmen. They're business people.
but that goes to, like I said, what I'm trying to talk about with this, the struggles of hip hop. You know what I mean? Because these artists don't got record stores not playing their music. They don't got the FBI calling them, telling them to stop playing this song. They don't have the president, vice presidents of the United States and C. Delores Tucker and Reverend Butts out there speaking against them and running over their CDs and boycotting them and getting political movements against them. Now it's cool. Now it's gravy. You know what I mean? They don't have that
They do
struggle.
got the
You know,
FBI on their neck though.
but
The
that's
youth,
but not for freedom
they
of
think
speech
I'm the
reasons.
enemy.
You know,
The youth think
like the
I'm their
hip
enemy.
hop, a
There's way
lot
more.
of
There's way more rappers now being dead or locked up now
let
than
me say
ever.
this. Let me say this too, real quick. You know, people right now, a hot topic in hip hop right now is rappers and lyrics being used against rappers. You know, this has been a fight in hip hop since the beginning, where they trying to use lyrics versus the artist. So it's not like this is a
Steve-O.
new talking point. It's still happening right now. You know what I mean? It's just a different version and a different, different ways that they using these lyrics. But the hip hop lyrics was used against artists for speaking out against a lot of real things. You know what I'm saying? And they wanted to censor them from speaking out against police brutality, speaking out against injustice, speaking out against racism, speaking out against the structures and the power systems. They wanted to censor them because they were speaking on it in a raw way. They weren't trying to be nice. You know what I mean? They was
Right.
throwing this shit back in their
The
face.
youth feels like
And
I'm their enemy because I look like them. Because they look at me and see a mirror of them, I must be their enemy. That's the wrong thinking point. I'm actually out here to try to usher you through without getting hurt. That's actually what I'm doing.
you
But
had
until
even
you
your
can't
own
do that,
record labels working against you back then. You know what I mean? Your
yeah,
distributors going against you. You know, it was a lot of the early rappers, even just like I said, even being
we got it.
recognized
We
as a,
got it.
there was a
They're
lot of
still
struggle
out
that
there.
these
All these traps are out there for the youth. I promise you. There are so many traps out there for the youth that you don't see. It's ridiculous. So when you find an OG that does actually care about your well-being and he's saying, watch out for that trap. Don't turn that corner. Don't go down that street. Go down this street. You may want to take heed, even though you're saying, well, who's this old guy? But there are numerous traps for you today. And you got more traps because that cell phone in your pocket is like a tracking device that you don't know about. You know what I mean? So you may want to be careful. You know what I'm saying?
But
But
let's tee
you
up the
know,
next topic, man. I think Savon should set this off because I think this conversation that we're having leads into this next conversation on what do we
that's it.
value now? What does this next generation, what do the newer generation value with hip hop? I want to hear your opinion on it first.
Um, Me, see, I'm in that in between where I know of my older artists and I could still find the good in some of these young artists and appreciate it for what it is. So for me, it's just overall, and it may be broad as hell right now, but I just appreciate good music, whether that's going to be in the form of club dance music, something that's thoughtful, something that's introspective, or even some of the negative shit. You know what I'm saying? There's a mood for everything. I feel like there's need to be a balance. There's certain moods I'm in. I feel there's a way of music for everybody now. Like I've said before, you could literally go on to whatever DSP and find a playlist for whatever you want to listen to now. I mean, it's great how much of access we have to music more than at any point at the tip of our fingers. So right now it's just as broad as hell. It's just I just want good music, bro. And I know that's subjective, but what's good to me? What sounds good to me? I just want to hear something that's new, that's refreshing, that's when whatever form you get. I just want to see it be more than what the current conversation or whatever artist is at the time. It's too many artists out here, and the music output doesn't match that amount of artists. So at this point, I want consistent good music.
I think the youth, once they see something working, they try to mirror what's working. So they'll see an artist that has maybe he dresses a certain way, his beats are a certain way, his delivery is a certain way, and they'll try to mirror that. Now you're all trying to fit in that doorway because they want to be successful and they want a huge social media following. So I think they are valuing what they see by a huge following. But what I will say is being different is is a is a better model, because what I mean by different is you were already born different. You have so many gifts that other people don't have that you came stock already born with. So if you take your artistry, and a good example of that is I'll use Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, even though, and Prince, but I'll use Michael Jackson, even though he came in with certain aesthetics and he changed certain things, okay, but his movements fit his body type. His delivery in songs fit his voice. His songwriting fit what he likes. He tailored everything specifically to him. The same way Bruce Lee tailored Jeet Kune Do to his punches and kicks. You, as an artist, the young, I would like, instead of the you following what works for somebody else, because I think that's what the youth values. I would like the youth to tailor their artistry to them specifically, because what you're going to find is you're the only one who got that. It's just going to be a
So
one of one, and that's going to
you
make
know
you
how you said be
powerful.
different.
You know what I mean?
You said be different. I wouldn't say be different. I say be creative. Because being different, a lot of these artists out here is different. They real different. I'll just say be
Right.
creative.
Hey,
Don't try to read.
honestly, y'all ain't really answering my question the way I really wanted to, like, for real.
My bad.
My question is really more or less like, what do the unit, what, like, as far as, like, I'll just speak for our generation, right?
Yeah.
We value rapping in our rap. I don't think that this generation right now really values rap ability and really
Oh,
wordplay and lyrics and metaphors. I don't think that that's a real value for them. I think they more into vibes, fashion, if it sounds good, if it's, you know what I mean, like things like that. I don't think they value rapping abilities anymore. And
no,
the reason why I even brought this up as a topic was based on when you shared the what Pitchfork rated um
yeah,
Playboy
Playboy
Cardi's
Cardi,
album, and
yeah,
his
yeah, yeah,
album was rated almost what, a point and a half more than
Kendrick.
GNX was. So like I
yeah,
mean
yeah,
like
yeah.
what
It's crazy.
I, it's just like what are they valuing with Playboy Cardi's music where they saying that it's better than GNX? I just don't understand, like, what are we valuing at the moment?
Well, here's my thing
Are we
is
valuing beats? Is it beats
I
over rhyme
never.
now? Is it vibes over lyrics? Is it like what is the true
But yeah,
value of the
yes,
young
it is.
generation
So
when it comes down
I
to hip hop right
I sent that in the chat and I was like, yeah, it was crazy because I even seen like ratings for other albums. I started going down a rabbit hole looking at other ones. And then I was like, what the fuck do they know? It's a white publication. I don't care what their view is on hip hop, but it
Right.
was telling. And it did bring up a good topic on that. It's like, if you have this rated here, and then you have Kendrick here, and you have like Drake, and then you have the Future album, Doechii, and all of them, like all those big other releases that, broke records or whatever, or did numbers or what you want to speak of, it does make you ask the question, what do they value? And it's a good question. I think it depends who you talk to, because like I said, I've been to many music festivals and I'm not seeing old people there. That's for those artists that are a little bit more like lyrically inclined or whatever. It's the young folks. There's still a generation of younger people that like hearing that, and then there's some that just want the vibes, that just wants to, they don't care about what the rappers are saying. As long as that beat hit, that's all they care about. So I guess it's subjective to who you speak to, man. I feel as the industry as a whole, I don't think the industry values it enough as the wider
They don't care.
marketing. But on the flip side, they kind of do, because the conversation for the past year has been a big three, and those guys still have a form of rapping. You know what I'm saying? Like Kendrick is the biggest one of all. So I feel like they're still like, it's there, but then I feel like it just depends on like what is the masses going to at the time and
I
what they
I
want
got
to.
to give the youth some grace. You mentioned Savon giving the youth some grace. I got to give them some grace here, because if I grow up in an era where I'm getting 1,000 new songs every week, my attention to each individual song is going to be lessened, because every day I'm getting a new one. So then it does become about the melody. It comes about the vibe. If the biggest artist is Drake, then I am considering melody. If Future's outside, I'm considering Melody. In my era, to be old, we would get a Nas album and we'd have to sit with that same album for 2 years before he drops another. So in that time, and we're not on social media. We are either watching TV or playing video games or listening to music. But when we listen to music, we're intently listening because nothing else is going on. When these kids listen to music, they're listening, they're also watching videos on YouTube, they may be playing a game. Their brain is being hit from so many different angles that no, they're not focused on the lyricism because how could they be? So I'm gonna give them the out. If vibe is your thing, I'm not mad at you because how are you gonna focus on lyricism like my generation did? You can't. You can't even sit with an album long enough to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We used to sit with the same album all year. You can't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate Soup's question because it does make you think, and it does make you really think about even from your aspect of where you're at and what you value, but also looking in the lens of a younger person and figuring out why do they like this or what do they care about when they're listening. And I could say like I've heard young people rant and rave about Kendrick. I've heard them rant and rave about Drake throughout the years, Cole, stuff like that. And I feel like there's still people that appreciate it. Those people that still support it, they're at the festivals and they're there. But then you also have people that is supportive of that other side that's like not as lyrically inclined. So that's why I say it's subjective because it's like it's so wide open right now. I think these kids are just finding whatever just sounds good, man. Like there's people that that are listening in their headphones, artists I never heard of, like Lil So and So, YNX songs or YN whatever acronym you want to put beforehand of artists I don't even know, bro. And like I'll go to the YouTubes and they have followings, and I'll just be like, man, it's so wide open now. I just don't know if I could pinpoint what it is that they value now
Yeah.
because we're talking about regular outside people. I'm talking about people and not the internet. The internet is different. What the internet likes and what they deem cool, whatever, that's different than what I hear what these kids are out here listening
Right.
to and what they're vibing to and everything. The internet is damn near like, I don't know who's real and who's fake on the internet for who's supporting what now, man. I'm
It's
just gonna be
crazy.
honest.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So I got a cousin that's my daughter's age, right? So they kind of
Mhm.
keep me, and I got a nephew that's about just graduated from high school. So I kind of get my ear to the street. The kids, from what I hear, they from a high school level, they like this guy, NBA YoungBoy. They like NBA. They
Yeah,
like NBA YoungBoy.
love young boy.
Before NBA YoungBoy, everybody the kids were on Dirk. They were on Dirk heavy. They were on Vaughn heavy. Um,
Mhm.
then they got to the emo thing. There was this rapper named Destroy Lonely. Y'all know Destroy Lonely? Um,
Never heard of him.
he's like this really emo, but the kids liked him. Destroy
Mhm.
Lonely. Who else? Now now it's Doechii,
I think it's
but yeah, the
but
kids
Rondo.
kids is vibing. The kids are vibing.
They're vibing. If I see Future come out here and be huge, and then right after and that's with Lil Wayne. So I have Lil Wayne that's heavy lyricism at some point. I'm talking about by the time Future comes in. Wayne is heavy lyricism because he's mixtape Wayne when Future comes in. Future spins off the Wayne lyricism and creates a vibe, and he's hugely successful with that vibe. Then the Migos segue, but then right before the Migos, I see Drake come in and Drake dominate everything. His music is very vibey, very emotional. If I'm the youth and I'm seeing that, that's a beacon of creative hope for me. I'm going to say, let me make these vibes because I'm seeing it win in real time, Future and Drake. So I can't blame them for that. You know what I mean? For doing to try to be lyrical is much harder. I'm asking you to use parts of your brain that it's very difficult rather than just create a vibe. You know what I mean? So
You know,
it is
I
what
think
it
that
is.
it's very difficult talking hip hop and rap to a crowd of people that don't respect rap. You know what I mean? And I think that it makes it difficult. And this is why I've been making this push for a while, saying that hip hop needs its own subgenre now. When
Mhm.
rappers that are supposed to be with the so-called rappers, we put in these vibers. I say we start calling them vibers. If we're going to start putting these vibers on our list, and or even to have for us to really totally respect them for their greatness and what they actually do for what it is, it's hard to respect a viber when he's in the same category in class with Jay-Z or Nas. You know what I mean?
agree.
It's hard to respect what Future
I can
does
see that.
versus what Jay does or Busta Rhymes or any traditional rapper. You know what I mean? And so I think
agree.
that we really do need to go ahead and we should just start calling these dudes vibers, man. I said I'm gonna give y'all my top 5 vibers of all time right now. You know what I mean? So I would say that Future is probably the GOAT viber. He's the GOAT of vibers. Maybe followed by Travis Scott, Roddy Ricch. You got to put Kanye in there. He might be the godfather of the vibers. You know what I mean? But
Cuddy.
I don't know if he big enough though. It's a couple other vibers.
Cuddy, he gotta be
I
there.
wouldn't put Kanye in there. I wouldn't put Kanye.
Yeah,
in there.
but who's vibing
Kanye
more,
is the
Cuddy
father.
or Kanye?
It got to be Kanye and Drake. Those are the king. Those are the Drake. They are the vibers. I would say that Drake is still more of a hybrid, but yeah, I still
Kanye
got to
dropped
put him.
3
I think
classics.
Cardi. I think Playboy Cardi got the vibe game on lock right now.
But I have to put Cuddy where Kanye is at because Cuddy's complete whole album was a vibe. Kanye's first 3, he was rapping. His first 3 classics that we hold him to are rap albums. So I have to put Cuddy there.
Was
I'm gonna
Pop Smoke a
your
viber?
list.
Was Pop Smoke a viber? Or was Pop Smoke a MC?
I think that's just a different form of music because that's
I still would
like
consider him a viber though. I honestly
Will.
would, even though he rapped a little. I would still consider him a viber too, though. To be honest with you, I would. He fits in the viber category.
And the vibing's not easy either.
We might need to
give them
trademark
credit.
that viber shit. We might need to trademark that shit.
We
Viber.
for real. We got to start calling them vibers, man. We can't keep calling them rappers if they don't value rap no more. I mean, you even got this guy like Four Bats. Four Bats is even considered a rapper, and like this dude don't rap a lick. He sing. He all about vibes. There's not a bar there.
That's also going to create a divide because you're dividing, which I'm okay with. But some are going to see that as a divide. I think you should be able to do both. Drake can vibe and Drake can bar up too. So I think being able to do both, you know.
I actually get what Super's saying though, because I think we said something to this like in our chat, and it was like, yeah, I think that whatever they're doing will be respected more if you did not put them in the same category as real rappers. And when I say that is if you're not rapping, like Travis Scott, is he a rapper to you? I love Travis Scott music, but is he a rapper to you? Do you categorize him as a rapper? Right. So like I feel like there needs to be a category for rappers who are not rapping. Whatever melodic stuff or whatever's going, that's not rap. But it could be a subgenre of rap, and those are be the vibers. That's why I say I don't know if like Kanye's on there because he's actually having bar verses or whatever. You know what I'm saying? The structure of what rapping is. These artists, like, they're not really rapping. It's like some melodic stuff. It's not all of it is not bad, but it's not rapping. There needs to be a subgenre for that. So yeah, that's what I'll consider vibers. Guys who are not actually rapping, in a sense.
Yeah, I agree. I would even consider like Lil Baby a viber. I would, or Yachty, Uzi Vert. Those guys are vibers, and for order them to get that respect that they deserve, and for them to I think to recognize really what they're doing as a great or as another genre of music, I think it is time for us to have our own subgenre like R&B had with disco, the blues had with R&B. You know what I mean?
That's true.
That's not bad.
I don't want to
lie.
It's
not bad.
I don't want to lie all the way to the youth because the great vibers, if you ask them to rap, they're actually great rappers. So on the surface, yes, we could say they're vibers because that's what they do. But in the art of skill, aside from what they do, they could bar up. What I'm saying is you have to know both. When you're trying to use a cheat code, you could play yourself. It's like people that thinks auto-tune's going to save them. If you take auto-tune away from T-Pain, he can really sing for real. So don't think that not being able to rap is going to save you as a viber, because even finding the vibe, you got to know how to bar up. That helps you catch the vibe. And for a barsmith, you got to know how to vibe, because if you just barring up, You have to know both if you want to be great. You're not gonna get by just knowing one, and you can't bar up, or you can bar up but you can't vibe. It's gonna collapse. You got to be able to do both.
I
You know
think
what I
that
mean?
this might be a slightly off subject a little bit from what we're talking about, but it's really kind of still fits into what we're really talking about. Like, I would compare this almost to the NBA. You know, like the NBA. Like, do you guys think that the NBA is better now? Like, do you really
No,
think that it's better now?
no,
Are they? I hear this argument going both ways, right? And so, like, some people would say that the players are more skilled now, right?
no.
But
Technical skill.
yeah, or athletic or whatever. They have reasons to say what they're saying, but at the same time, they taking away parts of the game. So now, like, the post up game is not really there.
Defense. I mean, the players don't play defense.
Defense is not really part of the game no more. And like right now, if I would relate this to hip hop, like freestyling is not really part of the game anymore. Posse cuts is not really a part of the game anymore.
Remixes,
Groups and remixes. That's not, the game is missed. Like,
soundtracks.
are we really gaining something by taking these attributes away? You know what I'm saying? And I think that
No.
I don't know. Like I said, it's a little bit off
I know what you're
subject,
saying.
but
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
We need to look
Yeah,
into that.
I mean, I get your point. Like, I would say the NBA is better now as far as the skill level, to a certain extent, the talent, the athleticism, but the certain value of certain things before there is not there. Because now the game is like, it's bigger than ever as far as the money and all that goes into it. These players are making way more than ever, but like you said, there's certain elements that's taken away or not brushing up on the craft. Like you got people just running up the court, jacking up threes and not getting back on defense. I get it. Translate that into music. We have a lot of people that have a talent, but are you saying they're not utilizing the other intangibles that was there from before, or like what are you saying with translate that point?
That's what I'm saying.
Like, imagine the basketball game right now. If guys really did still have post up game, still did have the mid range, and they were still shooting the three. You know what I mean? Like imagine if they really incorporated all of it together properly. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, guys can't even like free throw shooting is like at the all-time low in NBA history.
I think
but
the game has changed, man. The game has changed. I think the coaches need to start wearing suits again too, man. I mean, they wearing these jumpsuits and t-shirts. That shit don't, that's they can change too much.
Overall, though, to anybody, the youth or the older rappers, you can't cheat the game. And trying to make little cheats, you're gonna fall in on problems. With Steph Curry, if he's being guarded by one person, then maybe he could mess around. If he's getting a double team guarded, he's gonna have to really play. In music, if they actually put you in the game for real, you're gonna have to really play. And when you're in these studios, you're gonna have to crank out a lot of material. And that's why certain fundamental. I came in talking about literary devices. Those are fundamentals to help. To when you get stuck, you lean on the fundamental. But you're gonna need them because when it's time to really, when you're actually in the real game for real, and there's money on the line. If it's no money on the line, don't trip. But when these companies put money behind you, you better deliver. You better deliver. Yeah.
Here's my thing, because it's like I feel like it's 2 points being conflated here. I feel like when we're talking about them not having these things or elements that existed beforehand, it's like, okay, we can't call that rap. It's a form of hip hop. It's subgenre, and that's why it needs to belong in its own thing. But we can't say that it was better beforehand when was this one was ever, because it's not for us. It's for whoever they appeal to with that. That's why it needs to be put in a subgenre. I just like to say, I think we're interpreting Vibers different because we could listen to a Wiz or something like that or a Currency and say, hey, that's the vibe music, but they were still rapping. The way I'm interpreting the Viber stuff is actual people that are not rapping. It's a form of the hip hop beats. It's a form of like the art, but it's not necessarily them structuring their stuff where they're spitting verses. It's just like it's weird. It's like
I agree with
you.
Or even like a Larry June. Larry June is kind of like that type of a hybrid.
Turn up. Yeah.
Larry June is a vibe. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Woo!
But what Larry June does is very difficult, though. It sounds easy because he makes it easy on the ears. But if you actually try to do it, you're gonna find out he's using spatial rhymes. He's starting and beginning rhymes in a certain way. He lands hooks and bridges in a certain way. It's knowledge behind what Larry June does. It ain't that easy. So you're gonna have to really know if you told Larry, let me really hear you rap for real, he's gonna bar up on you. He knows how to do
I,
both. You know what I mean?
all right, y'all. So you might as well just let this lead into the next topic, then, man. So was we just hating right there, or was we just giving opinions?
Hey,
Was we hating?
let me read the super chat real quick, and then we get to the final topic of the night. And I want to end on. I got a final thought as well, but we're gonna get to that last topic. Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says we're making too many excuses for these lazy artists and listeners. Real MCs are just as successful as vibers. Hove made it to where he is from actually rapping. Yeah. Ski. Yeah, I got you. That vibing should be, man. I'm about to go to Vegas in a couple weeks, so that vibe should be
Yo,
working. You know what I'm
sometimes, man,
saying? The
there's a
vibe
place
be
for
right.
it.
You know, the
That's what I'm
vibe be
saying.
right.
Sometimes there's a place for. That's
When
why
it's, when, yeah, it
I
is.
can't shit on it all the way
The
because
vibe be right.
I'm not saying it to shit
Yeah.
on it because
Oh
y'all
no,
know
no, you didn't shit on it.
I,
You asked the
I'm
question.
definitely one of the ones that I say I like Future. I ain't got no embarrassment in saying it. Like I enjoy Future music. You know what I mean? It's nothing wrong with the vibe, but what would piss me off if I seen some list and they put Future over Nas on a hip hop rap list. That's what will piss me off really about it. You know what I mean? And then it might sound like I'm hating or being disrespectful to Future. But no, I mean that, you know what I mean? Like let's keep this shit in perspective. Let's you know, I think there's, like I said, they deserve their own lane because Future gets shitted on in the traditional sense of a rapper, but we know good and damn well that everybody like a Future song somewhere. You can't, like, even if you don't like them, you can't say that after all this time that Future ain't got one of them nice vibe tracks that you like.
Cause
You'll be
Future got some R&B records as well. Like Future has some
That's
stuff
what I'm
that you
saying.
classify
That's
as
fact.
R&B.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
you gonna find a Future record that you like. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And he's gonna transition. I think out of all the vibers, I think he's talented enough to transition as he gets older to get away from that vibey music to make like some smooth player type music as he gets older
I
in his
mean,
late
the man
40s.
is up there, and hey, he ain't young. He ain't a young artist for a
Yeah,
second.
he
You're
moved
an
like
old
a
man for
youngster
real.
though. He moved like a youngster though. You know what I mean?
He the
Well, not
same age
really.
as me. I'm the same age as Future, man.
But yo, but this is
I
like
still
this.
could be popping right now.
This is we might need to put out an album though. We might need to put out a mixtape or something. But this conversation comes up in our group chat a lot, and I think some of the stuff gets lost in translation. But also on other podcasts as well. When we give our opinion on this microphone and we talk about music or we talk about a particular artist, how do we differentiate from hate or classifying it as hate or just giving an opinion? And what's the proper way to give an opinion when you talk about an artist where it doesn't cross into the gray area of hate? So, Super, you had this topic. What's your take on this? You and Savon.
I'm gonna give y'all the hate.
Y'all know where I'm going with this, man. I keep saying this, and we didn't lost the meaning of hate. We done lost, especially from what in the hip hop meaning of hate. It was originally player hater. It was originally like saying that you really talking down on a man. You know what I'm saying, for basically for no reason or out of jealousy. Well, now hate is just giving your honest opinion about if you like the music, if you think it's classic, if you thought the Super Bowl was great, if you know what I mean? Like if you like anytime, like now in this generation, any criticism, like we can sit back and talk Jay-Z and Nas, go through their catalogs, compare them all day with no problem. But now when we bring up a new artist, a newer generation artist, as soon as you criticize anything that they're doing, you a hater. You just hating. You hating. You hating. You hating. Am I hating or am I just being honest and giving my true opinion? I think that
Well,
we throw that word around so much that it's almost like, this might be a bad analogy, but I'm just gonna say it. It's almost like throwing anti-Semitic around every time, where you say it so much it starts to lose its meaning a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And I think that we done lost what hate really is now. You know, just giving your opinion is hate now.
No, well, you know what? I first of all, I hate that that analogy or whatever you were doing with that there, because we could look up in the definition in the dictionary what anti-Semitism is. Like, we clearly know what that is. So we
I
know if
kind of know
somebody
what he
specifies
meant by
something
that.
what that is, what that's not. We know that. That's number one. As far as hating, this is what I say, and haters still exist, and I say that all the time. It's cool to have an opinion, but when you have to down something else to validate that point, or you have to compare and contrast to validate the point, or you give expectations that you would not give to any other artist, rating them that way in order for you to validate your point. These are things that I consider hate. And there's been things that have happened. For example, we can use case in point, Kendrick. I've always said, if Kendrick music does not fit you or it does not suit you, cool. You can even say why. But when you go and you running points and you're bringing up stuff such as, like I said, Ron, ticket sales. Oh, he can't even sell so and so. Or does he deserve the let's compare his catalog to other goats and see where it stack up? And I'm just like,
Yeah, but what's wrong
these
with doing that? Well, like I
you're
said, we do
creating
that with.
further
We've been
points to
doing
try
No,
to
that.
get you
let me respond. Let me
to try to
respond.
validate why you don't like it. If you
Let
don't
me,
like it, cool, but you're
let
trying
me
to find
respond.
other points
Let me
to
respond.
go against it to validate that. That
Let me
is
respond
hate,
to my
brother.
dear. Let me respond to my dear brother Savant. Those reactions, those hateful comments come from me because it's a reaction based upon things I've heard on this podcast said by.
But it's hate, though, right?
But it's, no, no, no. It could be misinterpreted as hate. But my opinion that I offer is based upon. It's a reaction based upon things I heard that was said in the past. For example, when I heard on the pod on one of the Mondays that this is the most dominant era of hip hop, that's when I started firing off. I think it was a thread between you, me, and Mike Servan.
Because
He
it
was like,
made you mad.
"This is the most dominant era of hip hop
Who said
ever." And
that?
I think Mike said that, and I was like, "Man, ain't no way this is the most dominant era in hip hop." And that's when I brought up the ticket sales, and that's when I brought up, and because he was saying that the Grammys didn't matter. He was saying
Was
that
that
the
not an opinion, him saying it is the most dominant?
No, he was saying it as fact. Mike be speaking like, Mike don't be speaking in no opinion. Mike speaking like
I
it was the
think
gospel.
everybody does
He
that
was
to a
saying it's the
degree.
most dominant period of now. And I was like, well, no, I want to push back on this. And this is the reason why. So that's why I kind of push
Let,
back on that.
let me say this real quick, right? I feel about hate the same way I feel about contradiction. If you show me a person that says, I never contradicted myself, I think that person is a robot. I don't even think that's a real person. I think if you're actually a real flesh and bone, you have contradicted yourself. So I also feel that way about hate. Now, example, I hate Kanye West. I hate him as a person. But when I critiqued his music, you see how I went straight to the music. I said, I don't think that brother speaks Spanish. That was a direct thing about the song. I did not take it about my hate towards him, right? But we do get irritated when we don't like something and we see the masses do, because that's human nature. Now, if we want to step away from that and act like we're not human, there's things, right? When J. Cole was really hot, and he's really hot now, but what I'm saying is, like, in the 2010s and all, he was hot outside, right? I wasn't feeling his music. And then I kept commenting on me not feeling his music. And then at some point, I just had to say, you know what? I'm hating straight up, because I see that everybody else likes it and I don't. So I have to realize I am hating.
Well, maybe you just
And
didn't like it though, Leroy. Maybe you
that's
not.
what it is.
Maybe you just
But
didn't.
but
I
but
Let me
still,
read the
I
though,
mean,
if I
super before
didn't
you
like
cook.
it, I wouldn't pay it no attention.
Let me
If
read the
I
super chat real quick.
if I really really didn't like it, I wouldn't pay it no attention. What I didn't like is me not liking it and seeing the masses love it, and then that played on my psychology. Oh, they don't know what they're talking about. I'm the real hip hop. And that's hating. You know what
Let
I'm
me
saying?
let
And
me
you
read
have to realize when you do that.
Let me
You know
read the
what I'm
super chat
saying?
real quick before you go, Super. Brian with the super chat says hip hop should have subgenres the same way rock does. Anyone would agree. It's ridiculous to put the Beatles and Slipknot in the same category, same genre, or to compare them. Why does rock do it and not hip hop? Good point. Super cook up.
Okay,
I mean,
MAGA and RJ.
every
I hate anybody. If you go after special needs children, I don't like you. If you go after a group of people, you know, I don't really like you. If you say things about my ancestors as a black man, I kind of don't like you. You know what I'm saying? So if you feel that's weird, that's okay. But these are some reasons why I just don't like the person. That's all. You know what I mean?
I mean,
I just like I
I'm gonna
said,
let you rock, Soup. I just want to say this: there is a point to what Soup's saying to an extent. There are people that if you voice an opinion that's different from the others, they will call you a hater just because. But that's not what I define as haters. I voice why, but you can go.
yeah, I just think that we went too far. Like we've gone so far that, and I think it's a tactic to beat us all down. Like right now, everything is dope and everybody fired. You can't have an opinion without being called a hater. Like if we say that Playboy Cardi is whack, somebody gonna jump in the chat and say we just hating and blah 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 blah. Like no, this dude just whack, man. It's just
You can
I'm
say
just giving my
what?
opinion. I guess we could. I mean, if you want me to be more descriptive on why I'm
Yes.
saying this shit,
Yes.
that's fine.
No,
But I
you
think
he can
I
say
think
he's what. That's literally how we describe hip hop in the beginning. It's either you whack or you
yeah.
don't. There's
Yeah,
nothing
And
and
wrong
we've
see,
with
been
I
that.
don't
doing
like
this.
that. I don't like that.
We've been
What I
doing this
want
for years. You know what I'm saying? Like
That's from the
we've been
history of hip hop. You either whack or you
yeah,
don't.
we've been doing
what
this
I
for
what I
years,
want
and
to
now
do.
all of a
Yeah.
sudden, we like the younger generation got a problem with being criticized or saying that we like even us as like I said, the older generation or the guys we they mad at us for expecting more from them. We hating
But
on they
super, super,
they look at us
super.
like we hating on them
I've
because
been on
we
here.
expect more. You know what I'm saying?
I've been kind of mad at one word albums. Now we describe whole catalogs with one word. We'll be like, that guy's catalog is mid. And that one word described his whole catalog. I just don't agree with one word answers. Now I get what you're saying. If someone says Cardi is whack, I get it. But if they call you a hater, I also get that too. Because I feel like it would be better to say, you know what? I'm a bar guy. And I don't like the fact that he's not spitting bars. Now that's specific. Now I don't
No,
think
we
you're
wasn't getting
hating.
to that. Like I
I think
said,
you're
Hey, or
when people
specifically
ask you if you
saying
heard
something.
something, if you like it,
it
it's
could be
either
One
dope
word
or
answer. One word
it could
answers
be
are
something
saying
as
perfect.
something
simple.
is mid is basically kind of saying is whack. It's just an evolution of slang.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
It's
I mean,
saying?
one
it was
So
even
word.
something as simple as even saying that you like I said, the people that was getting a little bit of pushback for the Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl thing. Like some people were just saying that, yeah, I thought the Super Bowl appearance was all right, but I wish he would have maybe performed a different set list. Oh, you just hating. You just like
see,
it just it's like
that's not what I consider hating.
we
What I consider hating
I'm saying, but
is
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
What
I
I
know what you're
consider
But you
saying.
hating
just say it's mid.
is them picking out
That's
stuff that is ridiculous to what it is. Like if you could say, I don't like it, I wish you could have performed this hits. Cool, we could argue well the reason why or whatever. But I'm not gonna call you a hater because of that. But I am gonna call you a hater when now you're starting to talk about what the man's wearing. You're starting to talk about this other stuff that's totally irrelevant to what does that have to do with either if it was good or it was bad as a performance? You know, when we start picking little things just to nitpick at, man, it's kind of like that's hating, G. That has nothing to do with the talent that's
I think
on the
that
stage that's performing.
I agree with you when you're saying that, but I really think that it's that at this point in hip hop, man, like
It's two
we
words.
almost it's we almost idolizing these guys.
It's
Like the
two. It's
fandom
like two.
it's standum now. It's more standum, and then like I said, any criticism you have for your favorite guy, they get mad. You know what I mean? Like
But
they get
super,
mad
super,
if
super.
it's somebody that they like.
Anything that you relate to, you kind of idolize. If you when you look at the word
Oh,
idol,
not true.
it
No,
means
no, that's not
it
true,
means
Not
man.
no.
true.
Like I
Well,
said,
hear me out. Subconsciously, that psychologically, they have already studied that when people see something that they identify with, that they draw a closer connection to, be based on the fact that they identify with that. So if someone comes out, if they say I'm the working class rapper, and you relate to that, like a Kanye West, you're thinking idol of a worship, but they're using idol as you are identifying that person's qualities with your own qualities. So
nah, I think it's
people
going a
do that.
little. Like I said, Leroy, I'm
People do
saying
that.
worship. I think because, like I said,
I don't.
in our generation, we more or less respected skills of the rappers. We liked Nas and we respected his skill, and you know, what I mean, it wasn't like, and if Nas dropped something that was bad, we can get on here and be like, yeah, I thought Nostradamus was pretty whack. I can, You know, I didn't like it like that. I was disappointed in that. We can talk about it
But
honestly.
you're more
These
likely to
guys,
show Nas grace.
these fans right now, they won't even say that. They won't even be like, yeah. They'll say "To Pimp a Butterfly" is the greatest album of all time, or they'll say "Mr. Morale" was great. They just gonna stand on it no matter what. They don't offer no real criticism of the people they
But that's
like
their
anymore.
opinion, though. That's their opinion,
I'm
though.
not
That's
saying
how
it,
they.
but is it truly genuine? I don't think it's really truly genuine. I just think
We're
I
not.
think
It's not up to us to. It's not up to us to determine if what they're saying is genuine or not. Just like you could say it's whack, they could say it was great. What's the problem with them saying it's great? Just like how you could
But
say
listen
it's
though,
mid or
I
whack.
well.
think it is
The,
I think it is genuine because if you pick an album like To Pimp a Butterfly, it would be equivalent to me picking an album like Soul on Ice or It Was Written. That's the same in their mind. That's the same equivalent. So I can't say you're lying if somebody says To Pimp a Butterfly because you're picking a high art album to make an argument.
I just
You know what
I
I'm
just
saying?
don't. This generation never say anything bad about the artists. They just never say anything bad about it. They never criticize them. They never, they never really criticize them. I don't think. I think it really, and I really believe it started with the Eminem fans, and then like after time and after a little bit of time, people started,
They do.
really thinking
They do.
about it.
You gotta
I don't know,
They
man.
yeah.
started thinking about it.
I,
As time went over, they started sitting back and being like, all right, and they started like, well, maybe it wasn't as good as I thought it was back then. Like the fandom and like the
We had
fandom
haters in our
starts to die down.
generation.
yeah, that was.
We had
I mean,
haters in our generation.
they
Definitely
had
haters.
skits about the hater back in that generation. But
Like
one
I've heard
thing there,
people
there
say
is a
crazy stuff.
there is a point to what Super's saying. There is a new like stan culture that they believe everything that's kind of like mediocre is great. That's their
Right.
opinion to believe that, but it is a stan culture. And if anybody say I don't like it, it's whack, then all of a sudden, yeah, it's a hater. That is going
You a
on.
hater. Yeah.
It is going on. But there are real haters though, and that's who I address is the real haters.
Right.
Like I
Yeah.
said, if you don't like something cool, amount it to you just don't like it. Like I said, hip hop has always been either it's dope or it's whack. That's always been the case. And
Yeah,
the younger
that I don't
generation,
respect that.
the
That
not
means you
why?
didn't listen. Because
If
that
you
means
if
you
you look
didn't
at hip
listen.
hop battles and they putting the hand
But
over
you
there
didn't
and everybody
listen.
make noise, another one don't, it's like, hey, that they decided.
But
Like
look,
I
it's
did.
always
What
if
if you
been
did
someone
like
battle
listen,
rap,
Leroy? Well, Leroy, what if you
but
did listen and you just don't like it?
if
Because
someone
I
battle
listened to Pimple
raps,
Butterfly and I still don't. I think it's. I don't think it's
okay,
a good album to me.
but you didn't listen because if
I
someone battle
did.
raps or spits a whole album, they gave you an hour of raps. So you mean to tell me all that whole hour was just whack?
No, I
There's
didn't say that.
nothing
I
in
just
it.
didn't like it. I didn't
There's
say it was whack.
nothing
I
in
said I didn't
that
like it.
era. I heard for 20 years that I've heard people look me in my face for 20 years and say, "Bro, you realize that Jay-Z raps about nothing but crack?" And I'd be like, he's rapped about more than crack, right? And they're like, no, bro. And in their mind, he has only rapped about crack the entire time. So I have to call that hating because you're not really listening. You gave me a one subject answer for this man's whole career. That's not real to me. So when people listen to a Pimp a Butterfly and say it's whack,
I didn't
I
say
hear
that.
you,
I
but
didn't say that.
but you didn't hear nothing for that whole hour. There is nothing you heard
I didn't
that was
say that.
dope.
I
That's
didn't
kind
say
of
it was whack.
crazy.
I didn't say it was whack. I said I just didn't like
I'm
it.
not talking about you specifically, but people will say, "Bro, the whole album's it's mid." And every time you talk about an album, their response is one word: mid, trash. So
I mean,
every time we talk about an album, you have one word to describe an hour of music. That's crazy to
so.
me.
So my thing is, I don't call somebody a hater just because they don't like what I don't like. I'll call you a hater when your reason for disliking it is something that has nothing to do with the music at all. Oh, I don't like this person because they fake this, blah, 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 and all this other outside shit that has nothing to do with what we're standing here listening to. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, if we want to have a conversation about music, let's have a conversation about music. But when you start talking about shit that has nothing to do with the music as your reason of why you dislike it or you hate it, what are we talking about? That's outside of
When
like
your
that's
critique
you.
has nothing to do with music.
Yeah,
I,
that's a
I,
hater to me.
Yeah.
Or you just made a good point. You just made a good point. Like somebody will say all Jay-Z is talking about is crack. Well, to me, I would say, yeah, there's some content there where he talks about, the drug game or whatever, but there's a lot of other content. Where did you miss that content in between here where you just summed it up as just being that? So I would tell you, go listen to this, go listen to that, whatever. But that's why I say about a lot of artists, because when we start talking music here, that's what comes about. Like, oh, all they do is talk about this. This is what this, that. Like, even
He's trying to free the
Drake, right?
slaves.
Even for Drake, right? I say I dislike Drake because I dislike Drake's music because I feel he's been giving us the same content throughout the years over and over again. Right? I say I don't see where it's wrong content wise. I don't see where it's been taken to the next level, right? I can criticize the outside stuff just like anybody else can, but him doing the lawsuit and all that stuff make me dislike what he's doing as far as the impact to hip hop and what that stands for, or what I dislike of him as a person. But I still went and listened to the new project because I didn't feel right speaking on it without me going to listen to it. And when y'all asked me my opinion, what did I do? I kept it strictly to the music, right? I didn't say, man, I didn't like this album because the beef with Kendrick, blah, blah, blah. I told you specifically when we did the review, strictly kept it to the music. That's what it was, right? I don't see that same thing being done when people are talking about why they don't like other stuff. They get into a whole bunch of other bullshit that has nothing to do with anything. You know what I'm saying? So at some point there is a difference between opinion and a difference between hater. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just keep it a stack, man. Like, that's what it is. If we want to discuss music and the reason why we don't like music, let's keep it to what the dislike of the music is. When you start talking about other shit that has nothing to do with it, that's hating. You start to get into that hater in that hater realm a little bit.
Well, I mean, I think it depends on, like, who you're talking about and why you're saying what you're saying too. You know what I mean? Like,
it does.
Like, I'm just gonna use the Kendrick thing. Like, if somebody wanted to point out them bell bottoms and shit that he was wearing, like, yeah, I mean, that's an opinion that, like, man, I ain't like them bell bottoms. I thought that was whack. Like,
that's cool, but they're saying that's why they don't like the Super Bowl performance. What the fuck does that have to do with the Super Bowl?
It ain't got nothing. It ain't got nothing to do with the Super Bowl performance for me. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, like, people still gonna have their opinions on.
Correct.
But super. What if I say, okay, I don't want you to like the bell bottoms because it does look funny, and I understand exactly what you're saying. But if I explain to you that the bell bottoms play into the performance, you can still say it's whack. But can you acknowledge why I'm thinking something different? If I know that he's wearing the bell bottoms the same way people did when they protested the Vietnam War, then hold on, Ron. Then in my mind, I'm seeing another layer. You don't have to like it, but I'm saying, can you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah,
you know
I can see. I can see where you coming from. But I can also see where the folks are coming from. And say, hey, and it's the take that I had. I thought that he flawlessly executed the Super Bowl performance. He stood true to himself as an artist, and he approached it as an artist that I would suspect that as he would as Kendrick Lamar. But I also see the counterpoint, the people that just wanted to hear some hits or a variety of songs at the Super Bowl. I can understand that argument. They just wanted to be entertained. They didn't want to look at nothing deep. They just want to have a surface level Super Bowl show. I don't think that's hate. If somebody said that, I don't think that's not a hater. That's not a hater take.
But again, the conversation evolved. The conversation evolved.
And I never said it was trash.
But Ron, when the conversation evolves, people dismiss the evolution. Kendrick is not the guy to watch if you want entertainment. He wasn't the guy you were supposed to watch for that.
But I'm saying some people went to the Super Bowl expecting to be entertained, and they didn't enjoy it based upon their levels of expectation. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, sounds like a me problem.
Right.
You know I didn't bring this up as a. I use Kendrick as an example of what I was saying. I didn't bring this up for this to be
right. So say for example, this is what I'm talking about. Like, when we had the Nas and Jay conversation, and I said, I think Jay's catalog is better than Nas. All of a sudden, I became a hater from that day. Just because I said, because I said, I feel Jay had a better catalog than Nas.
Say that. Nobody really. I mean, maybe some people in the chat, but I don't feel like you hating when you said that.
And I don't like comparing. I say all the time, I don't like making lists. I don't like doing comparisons because when you're trying to make a point for one, it's like you kind of have to down the others if you don't like it just to make your point a little bit. And it's not like, that's why I say I never like those conversations. But as soon as I say I think this person has a better catalog than this person. I could tell you musically why I feel that way. It has nothing to do with anything on the outside. It has everything to do with the music, right? But if I start talking about, well, it's better than this because other bullshit that
Sorry,
has nothing
man.
to do with music, it's like, what does that have to do with the music?
It just you're right, but at the same time, like I said, this hip hop, we gonna do that about certain things. So just put it like this: when 50 had the G Unit tank tops,
Yeah,
we gave that shit the business. You know what I mean? Like we was shitting on
yeah.
that. You know, it was what it was. It wasn't hate. That shit was whack. It was ugly. It didn't. You know what I mean? It wasn't cool.
But we wasn't
And so
saying
we
his
shit on
music
it.
was trash because those was ugly
But
though.
if right now today, if Kendrick Lamar dropped G Unit style tank tops, they would say that shit is fire or whatever. And if you didn't like it, you hate it. You know what I'm saying? Or not even
Oh yeah,
Kendrick
I
Lamar,
mean,
J. Cole. You know, just
there's some people that would be like
everything.
that. Yes.
Yeah, we just I think we didn't got to the point where we're not helping the artists by not being willing to criticize them and talk about what we would like more. If everything that they dropping is fire to everybody, and every time they drop a song, they getting fire emojis.
But super,
How
some
how
people have
how are they going to
earned.
improve? You know what I'm saying?
Some people have
Even with the
earned the props they get.
no, they
Like
haven't,
Kendrick
man. They
has.
don't.
Kendrick
Some people,
Kendrick been outside for 15
nobody
years.
earned that right, man.
At
I'm
some
not saying
point, he
saying
earned
that,
it.
but at some
15
point,
years?
at some point, his fans are going to have to be able to say, I didn't really like
Not
that
his
album.
fans. Not
Even
his
his fans,
fans not going to say that.
his fans, like I said, they're gonna get to that point anyway. They're
They've
like,
been watching him 15 years. They're not turning on that man.
Hey, let me read this super
you
chat
know
real
what I'm
quick.
talking
Turning
Let me
about.
let
on
me
that.
read this super chat real quick, guys. My mere thoughts with the super chat says we need a variety of music for different occasions. We just don't need a steady diet of fast food music. The youth is a reflection of this.
We
Right.
right now, our current climate is a pick a side. That's how everybody approach it. Pick a side. Pick a side. It's not always just that simple. You know what I
It's
mean? Like
nuance.
you
It's
can,
nuance, and that's why I pushed
yeah.
back when there was discussion that this is the most dominant phase in hip hop. I said no. Let's look at DMX's run. Let's look at Jay's run. Let's look at Pac's run. You know what I'm saying? Let's
But
is
Ron,
this
but
really
Ron,
the most dominant we've
give
seen?
them
I don't think so.
Ron. There's like 1,000 artists in the game now. So whatever we view dominance as, when Jay first came outside, it may have been 100 guys he competing with. If you coming outside in 2025, you're literally competing with 1,000 rappers. So the
Even more
playing
reason why your
field
dominance will be better then, because now you
is
have more
kind of
that you
harder.
defeated.
Is kind of harder, and you don't have the backing of a label no more. When Jay came outside, if he runs in a jam, he could call Russell, he could call Bad Boy, he could call Dr. Dre, he could call Cash Money. These young rappers, who are y'all gonna call? Who are y'all gonna call?
It goes even in basketball. You know, you can have LeBron James as the second greatest of all time, and you'll be a hater. They'll be like, you a hater. You hate
My
LeBron,
whole thing is,
and
at
you
some
can be like,
point,
he
I
number
just say
two, he
it's not
number
for me.
three.
Think
You know
about
what
the
I mean?
reason why people say they hate LeBron too, and does that have anything to do with the game? How he plays?
Well, I mean,
Sometimes you
like
got
I
to
said,
know
it's
that
other
the
things
music
too.
is not for you.
It could be the way he won his championships, and they feel like he hooped with a lot of different players. There's an argument there. It's not hating, though. It's not the hate to say that he played on a lot of super teams and a lot
I
of
like
all
Kendrick.
stars,
I
and to
also know
use it
that Kendrick
as a criticism for him. You know what I mean? It's a
I
legit
like
criticism
Kendrick,
for him.
but I'm older than Kendrick. So Kendrick is not talking to me too. So yes, I can criticize him and do all that, but
Man, you
Kendrick
like
is
two
not
years older
talking
than
to me.
Kendrick, man. You like 2 years older than
He's not
Kendrick, bro.
talking to me.
You
My
only two
era
years
is
older
more
than him.
closer. I'm more closer to a Nas era. So what I'm saying is I'm used to like bars. When he's doing his music, he's not talking to me with his because I can tell the music is not tailored for me. So yes, I can criticize, but after the
I'm 4 or
10th
5 years
time
older than Kendrick
criticizing,
Lamar, man.
I'm just
It's
gonna
not that he's
say
not.
he's not for I'm not that much older than Kendrick Lamar, but still though, at some point I have to say maybe his music is not for me. Like Playboy Cardi, I could tell you every day, man, I don't like Playboy Cardi, but maybe Playboy Cardi is not talking to me. You know what I mean? It's not for me. So I have to just move out the way. He ain't talking to me. You
I
know?
think that I agree with you when you're saying that, but like to say that Kendrick Lamar is not part of our era, I think that's not true. Or that's like saying LeBron not part of our era. We watched LeBron whole career; that's part of our era too. So it's not like we hating on LeBron. I mean, I'm 2 or 3. I'm 3 years older than LeBron. It's not like
Now,
I'm 4
like
years older
much
than
older.
Kendrick, 4 or 5 years older than Kendrick. So it's not that I'm out of touch or like it's not my part of my generation. Yeah, it's part of my generation too. When Kendrick dropped, I was only 25, I
That's
want
true.
to say, or 30 or something like that. With however old I was, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't
I'm
that
just saying
old.
we got to move out the way too. If we did like Future, I know that Future's not talking to me. I mean, he is, but he's also not. So if I'm judging Future by my own '90s era standards, I gotta move out the way because Future's just not. He's not making music for me. He already knows I'm not gonna buy it. So we have to know. Like, if I could hate on Future, right? Because his music, I most of it I don't mess with. But instead of hating on him, I go ask the youth, okay, can y'all explain to me why y'all rock with Future? They're gonna say, well, first of all, it's the cadence, then it's the beats, then he's using slang that's of our era. Now I'm listening to the youth, and I'm like, okay, I hear what you're saying now. So I hear what you're saying. So I can agree, but it's not for me. You know what I mean? That's all.
I mean, I could say why I don't like music just by solely talking about the music. It's never gonna be on some outside shit why I don't like it. Like, say for example, in the beginning of the show, you guys talk about Kanye Bully, right? And strictly
Yeah.
talking about the music, I say I didn't listen to it. I don't care. I have no opinion about it. When we got into the subjects, I don't care. I don't have a reason to talk about it. Like, do we care about what he say at this point? I don't care. We've seen this before. You know, there's reasons behind that. But I could easily say now, if I would have gotten to the territory, man, I don't like the nigga Kanye because XYZ and stuff like that, the stuff that don't have nothing to do with the music. Well, he's not a good example because he have all reasons for us to
And
hate him.
it wouldn't
But
be hating.
But I
That's
got
why
you though.
even
I
if you
got you.
did,
yeah,
it wouldn't be
but let's
hating.
take
That
that
would not
outside
change.
of the thing. Let's take that outside thing and let's apply that to any other artist. If you ask me, hey man, did you listen to so and so's album? And I'll be like, yeah, what you think of it? I didn't like it. Why you don't like it? I'm always gonna tell you musically why I don't like something. It's never gonna be about something that's on the outside of it to why is
I
whatever.
like
All this
those
has
arguments.
nothing to do with what the main topic is at hand or what we're talking
I
about.
think for the most part, when people do talk about Kendrick, it is about just if they think the music is that great or not. And if you don't think the music is that great, you get called a hater. For the most part, if you don't think
Well,
that
it
To Pimp a Butterfly
yeah.
is the greatest
I've been
rap
called
album,
dumb. I've been called ignorant, dumb, a
yeah,
If you
hater
made
because
a
I don't like the
musical
music
argument,
like that. They call me
you're not.
stupid. They call me I'm just stupid. You just dumb,
If
Ron. You
you
just
made a
ignorant.
musical argument,
You a hater.
then you're not a hater.
You hate the
But if
West
you're saying
Coast. You hate.
if you're
You
saying
hate.
yeah, but Ron, you was like your argument is that not some people just want to be entertained, but that's not Kendrick's problem. So at that point, it starts to look like hate because you brought in a factor that's not some people wanting to be entertained is not Kendrick's problem. Kendricks is talking to his base, and everyone else just happens to be there. Because the reason why I say that is because if I've been talking to my base for a decade, that's my specialty. I don't know how to talk to people that don't like me. That I don't know how to talk to them because they already don't rock with me. So I'm just talking to the people that rock with me. So
I,
when I judge Future, I'm judging does his fan base rock with this new Future album because I know they are experts at Future. If I give my opinion on Future, it's like it sounds like that's a me problem. Cuz you know what I'm
not.
saying? That's my
I mean,
opinion.
I agree with you. About
Yeah.
I brought this up before when I was speaking on West Side Gun. I think like hip hop is like it's a lot of mansexual, idol, pick a side. Like it's a lot of that really going on. You know, where people just like if
Hey,
they like these guys for other reasons than just like rapping ability. You know what I mean? Like
okay,
they
okay.
it's a totally different type of fandom that's
But
going on now.
super. You mentioned
It
West
was
Side
never there.
Gun. You mentioned West Side Gun, and part of what makes West Side Gun is yes, the beats. That's away from him, but yes,
But they get to talking about the way yeah, see, the
the
fashion,
fashion
how he
rebel,
dressed, how he looked, the
fashion rebel,
jewelry.
that's part of his brand. That is literally part of his brand. So if you were a kid that was fashionable, you had to always have the latest fashion. Then you kind of relate. It's like when Kanye came out, he was rocking Ralph Lauren. I immediately related because I'm looking at the clothes. Now, people could say, okay, well, you're showing some fruitiness, but actually, Ralph Lauren was popping when I was young. Like, so you could say it's whatever, but I'm just going off what was popping in my era. So when people look at West Side Gun, whatever clothing was popping, like I got on Supreme right now, that was popping in a certain era. Like, so I mean, yes, it is clothes driven, but that's just was cool.
Yeah,
That was cool in a certain era.
Laura
I mean,
Vachai with the super chat says, if you don't like Kendrick music, it's more of a reflection on you than Kendrick. Please
That's
expound,
supposed to
Lord
be.
Vachai. What
that
is,
might be a
That's
hater.
supposed to be.
so what does that reflect about me? Am I stupid? Am I ignorant? Am I just don't like the West
but like,
Coast? I don't like
And
do
well, I even brought up the point. My bad, Savon. I just wanted to, I said this already, but it's the same thing. If we talk about Tupac and his confusing message, and is it thug life? Is it But when we do this for Kendrick, they get pissed off and mad. Oh well, why can't he be?
I can see
It's
that.
part of life, and we got all these excuses on why he can do the shit. But we can discuss all day about Tupac's mixed messaging, being a Black Panther, the gang violence. We can go in on that shit. But as soon as we speak on Kendrick about this, they throw a fit. We hate him, let him do what he want to do.
so,
It's
but
like, come on,
when you
man.
speak about but when you speak about Kendrick, are you just talking about the music? When I talk about the contradictions, I'm talking about the contradictions due to the music. What the
Even in the
content of
music,
the
though.
music?
I
You
mean,
said what?
it's in the
But
music.
even with Pac
It's in the
though, if
music.
you're
You
It's in the
see, I
music.
kept
It's
it
in
to the music.
it,
I said I was talking about the music aspect of what his contradicting in the messages was. And I love Pac. Pac is one of my favorite rappers of all time. But I acknowledge the duality. This guy was young. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna, like I always said, I don't know there's gonna be another artist like Pac. You know what I'm saying? But I can also acknowledge the conflicting messages, right? In the music.
Kendrick a 40-year-old man with these type of contradictions though still in his music.
but people are expecting
I don't want to go down that lane because it's not really the
No,
point.
I
I'm
just
just
say when
people
we
are
talk about
expecting an
contradictions, are you talking about
explanation.
contradictions? Are we talking about the music?
People
we
want
talking
an
about in the music.
explanation
That's
from
really I
Kendrick.
think people
We
talking
didn't
about in the
ask
music.
Pac for an explanation. We
We
didn't
don't
we
know
didn't
we don't know
demand
enough
Pac give
about
us an
Kendrick to really say how he truly feels. It's we just really talking
Right.
about the message.
So when you guys say
My thing
contradiction in
is
the music,
any
I can give
person,
you a reason. I can name examples of contradictions in Pac's music. Even though I love Pac, I can give you contradictions of his music. What is your contradictions of Kendrick's music?
There's plenty out there. Like I said, I don't want.
Servan,
I'm
any
not really trying to
human,
focus on that. I'm just saying that whenever
anybody,
if it comes up, they get you can't even. They don't even want you to talk about it. There's no.
there,
That's what I'm saying.
There's
Like,
all
I
these
just want
excuses out
anybody
people when
here.
they
in
make certain statements to be
2025.
able to articulate why they're saying what they're saying. Because I can do that.
Did you
Just
watch the?
like,
Did you watch the?
Yeah,
Did I
but
was
if
gonna?
you're still
Did you
making
watch the Anthony?
contradiction
Did you watch the
arguments in
Anthony Fantino?
2025, that
Did
is
you
not
watch
so what?
that video?
intelligent. That is not
Did you watch
intelligent.
the Anthony Fantino whatever video
There's
where he was
no
speaking on that?
human that ever existed that hasn't
I don't
contradicted
think so,
themselves.
Sue.
That human never existed. So
Did you watch
anyone
that?
still
Hold on,
making a
Leroy.
contradiction argument, it doesn't make sense. You can't be alive if you don't contradict yourself. There you
People
can't even
calling
live.
people calling Anthony Fortino, they calling him out. They've been making videos on it because he made a video like highlighting some of the contradictions within Kendrick Lamar, like what that he has said through the music. They calling him a hater for even pointing it out.
Is
You know what I
Kendrick
mean?
supposed to preach to the choir? If you're a conscious rapper and you only rap to conscious people, aren't you preaching to the choir?
Well, I don't want to
That's
make it
what
a
I'm
Kendrick thing. I'm just, I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
want
not
to make
really
it a
trying to
Kendrick
make
thing.
it a
I just want
Kendrick
to stick.
thing.
I want to just stick to the point. Is what I'm saying is, like, we have a right to say what we dislike. We have the right to say what we like. But depending on what topic, let's keep it to the topic of hand and give the examples as why in between that. Like, I didn't listen to Bully, and I said on the same thing. I haven't listened to a Kanye
You didn't
album
listen
since
to
Life of Pablo, and I've always said musically why I haven't listened to it since Life of Pablo. Sound wise, musically, I've always been spoken about that personally in chat and on the same platforms. But it will be confused that I'm just not listening to him because of the personal. Now, the personal is a good damn excuse to tack on to it. But my real reason why I don't listen to Ye is there's nothing else that I'm looking for him in his music that he has to give me. I haven't seen the growth in that. I've
oh,
seen where I can hear
you
his
got it.
influences on records. And that started to happen in his Life of Pablo. Life of Pablo just happened to have good records. I'm not hearing the good records since that. The outside
But
stuff
before,
is a damn excuse that supports it even further. But I've always said musically, I haven't listened to it since Life of Pablo.
Hey, Leroy, wrap this topic up, and I want to kind of segue us out real
okay,
quick.
I'm gonna wrap it up in it, and it sounds deep, but it's not that deep. But if just being born in America, and I could use any country, right? But just being born in America, the likeliness of you being raised under a religious ethos is very high. And the only reason why I say that is because we believe that there is a perfect human being out there. We honestly believe that. So that's
I
why we
don't.
have a problem. That's why we have a problem with contradiction. Once we realize that there is no human that ever lived that didn't contradict himself in some form, then we'll understand that it's not a crime. We're looking for the perfect human being. And I'm just telling you that does not exist. That never
No,
existed.
I mean that's not
It
that's
just
not that wasn't to my point whatsoever. Because like just like I can acknowledge the contradictions and the messaging of whatever, it still doesn't take away that Pac is one of the greatest ever, and he's in my top whatever. It was still whatever subject we were talking about. But when we're talking about music and we're saying that strictly if you're gonna say something is dope is whack, I respect it. When they get into other stuff, I'm like, come on, bro. What does this have to do with the music?
make it musically based.
I mean, we couldn't even comfortably do the catalog comparison to Kendrick Lamar without being called haters. And we wasn't doing it to pick on Kendrick Lamar. We was doing it the same way when
You're
we
comparing
we
Kendrick Lamar to Pop to Tupac.
no,
What
because
other
like I said,
artist outside of Kendrick
but
would you
but
do that for? There's no
Savon,
artist that compares to Tupac. We know that.
but the only reason why we
No,
did
we
this is
compared them
because
to
they've been
everybody. We
making
didn't just
lists
compare
with
them to
he,
Tupac. We
No,
did
it
y'all
wasn't
Ice
just
Cube.
specific. Y'all,
it wasn't just the
there was
Tupac.
a show. Y'all compared Kendrick to Tupac.
No,
Beat
they
y'all
did
niggas
go
out.
To
talk.
other
You
people
talking about the
too.
go talk? You talking about they go
Y'all try
talk?
to match his catalog up against Tupac. We
Yeah,
can't do
but
that for no artist. What
No,
other
you
artists can we do
it's
that
apples
but
to
the point
oranges with all the greats.
of that
All the
show was
it's apples to
that
oranges.
if they're gonna have him consistently on these lists, either number 2, number 3, 4, or 5, we just saying like, well, where the music at? How does the catalog add up? What do the real rap fans think about this? So we can put him in a proper perspective as the hip hop audience and community,
I
not
hear
just
that.
based on
I
them,
hear that.
not just based on them throwing him number 2 on the list over Nas or Jay Z or
I hear
Tupac.
that.
I don't
Like,
entertain those
But
lists.
Super
what
Super
justifies this?
I don't
Super
have
What
an opinion
Kendrick
about them.
justifies
I
can't
this
don't
was
care
really the
about
control
them.
point.
Kendrick
And listen,
Kendrick
we
can't
can do this.
control.
We've been doing this for years, but
We
now
need to
it became
stop. We gotta stop.
all of a sudden it
We gotta
became
stop.
offensive when we did it with Kendrick Lamar, when we've been doing it with Nas and
Kendrick can't
Jay. We
control how you
we've
feel
been
about
talking about how
Nas.
Jadakiss doesn't have a classic album for a long time.
No, it's not about
This
how
Kendrick
we
is
can't
that
feel.
be
So let's
Kendrick
get
can't
let's
yeah,
take
we
compete
not
with
let's
being
take
everybody.
disrespectful.
Kendrick has to be the best Kendrick he can be.
no, let's take
Kendrick
feelings
can't
out of it.
compete with Jay-Z, with
Let
Nas,
let's
with
no
Eminem,
no
with Ghostface, with Common. Kendrick's job is to be the best version of
no
Kendrick.
let's no no
His
no no no
job
no
is
no no
not
no
to
time out
compete.
because I want to paint the
His
picture
job's
fair
not
because
to
I
compete
think
with everybody
you're
else.
painting the picture unfair. The only reason why Super and I did that topic is because the mainstream media and the mainstream publications, Fortune, Billboard, others, when it was Hip Hop 50 was out, they were making all these lists and they were saying that Kendrick was number 2, 3, 4, or 5. On this platform, on our platform, those lists in the awards and the Billboard charts were used to say this is the era of dominance. This is one of the most dominant things we've seen. And where previously on this platform, it was said that we have to put Billboard in context. We have to put Grammys in
Is it
context. So
possible
that's
they
why
were
we made
just
that
judging
argument saying,
Kendrick
okay,
by
let's just
Kendrick?
talk about the music. Because now we're saying two different things. We're saying that Billboard don't matter a year ago, and Grammys don't matter
Ron,
a year
does
ago.
it matter
But
what
now
other
fast
people
forward a
say?
year ago, now because it comes to Kendrick, now these things matter because
I
these
don't
lists came out. And that's
I
all.
don't
That's all.
argue those things to my point when I discuss why something is better.
Okay.
When
I
someone
don't
is
like the
running a
list.
race, they have to run their own race. Is it possible that people judge Kendrick Lamar by Kendrick Lamar? You know what I'm saying? If they do that, then he's going to score very high. When they remove everybody else and they just judge his albums, yo, this man dropped 4 classics in a row. Let's take everyone else out the picture. Just that on its own is ridiculous.
I mean, I
That's
just think that I think it's always fair because this is what we do in hip hop. We compare albums, we compare catalogs, we make lists, we say who to go, we put guys in order. But
apples and
now
oranges.
when we
Yeah,
want to measure Kendrick Lamar properly, all of a sudden it's a problem, and I think that that's kind of crazy. You know what I mean? I think
Because
that
Well,
yeah, y'all use measurements. I don't care who y'all compare it to, but the way y'all move the goalposts of how y'all rate people based on whatever, I don't see y'all do that for other artists. The arguments that you guys have personally made, I don't see you guys put
I
anybody
have
else in
never,
that same fire
I
and
haven't
do that.
made no real
The
argument against
measurements
him.
y'all have for him, y'all don't have for other artists.
I haven't judged him about anything other than the music. To be honest with you, I just said that I don't think that
Have y'all?
he's number 2 of all time. I said I got him
but
in my top 15.
how can
Yeah,
we compare Kendrick Lamar to
Okay.
Ghostface when there is no comparative variable? How can we compare
well, the
Kendrick
only
to
comparable
Eminem
variable
when
is
there
if you
is
enjoy
no
which one you
comparative
enjoy the
variable?
so
music
what?
for.
So we got to define, and I've been saying this for a
How are
long
we going to
time.
compare Tupac? Tupac died before Kendrick Lamar even came outside.
We've been comparing
How
Ghostface and Tupac
Kendrick is
for a long
closer to
time. We've been
Andre
putting them on the
3000.
list. We've been able to rank
I
them.
never compared
Kendrick
the two.
musically is closer
I'm
to
saying that
Andre
when we make
3000
our
than he is
list,
to Pac.
you might have Ghostface at number 9 or number 3 or
So
whatever on
how
your
do we
list.
make lists? That's the
You know what
question.
I mean?
I don't know what to
how are we
compare.
supposed
I
to
don't like
make
that. I
lists?
don't put
How
like
how are we
that's
supposed to
I don't
make
get in the
lists?
list.
I'm gonna
How we
tell
so-
you, Ron. I'm gonna tell you when I take a Ghostface and a Kendrick Lamar, I could compare them, but I'm not because they're so different. I'm gonna look at, did Ghostface be the best Ghostface he could be, and what is that rank? Then I'm gonna look at Kendrick and say, did Kendrick perform the best Kendrick he can be, and
so
I'm gonna rank that.
so
Over the last 14 years, Kendrick has been a better version of himself for 14 years than Ghost was a better version of himself for
so
See,
14
so how do we
in
cover
my pro-
how do we cover Rolling Stone? How do we cover Apple Music? How do we cover How do we
But
cover them when people put out lists? How do we cover it? How do we respond to lists if we don't put out our own or
because
analyze our own list? How do we respond
because
to
I
Rolling
I have
Stone or
to talk to
Billboard or
them.
putting out lists? How do we respond to those things?
If I don't even talk to them, I don't know what their thinking was because we never even had a conversation. That's the problem.
the thing
So
is, why
you
do
know what
we
I'm
need
saying?
new rules? Why do we need new rules for Kendrick Lamar? We've been
I don't
I
comparing
need
all these
just told
guys
you.
for a long time. We've been able to say that Ghostface is not better than Nas or Jay-Z for a long time. We've been able to just say that shit out our mouth, make our list, and do this
Uh,
comfortably.
uh,
But now when it comes to Kendrick Lamar, all of a sudden these rules have
No,
changed.
let's not make the
We're gonna
narrative
judge
seem
it.
like it's like that. Y'all have used things that y'all rate stuff for that y'all don't do for other artists, and I know that y'all haven't done that. But when we're talking about lists, the reason why I don't like lists is because they're always going to be subjective. Because we never know what the measurement of what is your rate, what is your measurement or
what's the
criteria that goes
measurement?
into the list?
Just if the
We
songs are
have no
better,
measurement.
I mean, especially on that specific topic of the catalog talk with Kendrick, we were just saying, do you enjoy this album more than this album? That's really was it. That was the whole
That
point.
sounds
It wasn't.
emotional.
What
It's not
why
That
emotional.
are
That's
sounds
you
what we've been doing.
why are
We've
you
been
taking an
doing that.
artist
We
that's
have
still
been
currently
doing that.
going?
But
Listen,
when you judge sport players, you use
when people
stats.
say that the purple tape is better than Illmatic or Illmatic is better than the purple tape, we don't do all this shit to like explain the reasons why. It's just better for this
You
specific
guys are
reason or another.
comparing already
It's just
solidified
that.
classic albums, bro. You guys are
Yeah, but
comparing. When we usually
You
talk,
you
what
want to?
artists are
We have
comparing,
no metric.
didn't
you're
they make a
comparing great
list?
bodies of work against past great
Didn't they
bodies of
make
work.
a
You're
list?
trying to
They
compare
made a
somebody
list.
who's solidified and cemented in hip hop already to somebody who's actively going. It's not done yet.
They made
We
a
know
list
nobody is
putting.
going to be able to reach the stuff with Tupac. We know where regards where Biggie is held up to, or Nas or Jay. So when you make any artist, let's take Kendrick out of it. If you take any other artist and you start trying to make the comparisons to any of those four artists, you're going to get pushback. You're going
Nah,
Yeah.
to.
and
If you take any
again,
artist of this generation, you start to try to compare them to Nas, Jay, Biggie, or Tupac, you're going to get automatic pushback.
But you acting
That's a
like
fact.
we didn't make up the comparisons. They putting him on the list over these guys. That's the
That's
whole
why I said
point
I
of the
don't
comparison.
argue those lists. I don't give a damn about those lists. When we're talking about our personal conversations, and you guys are trying to compare it to those guys,
and we
it's
only
never going to
respond.
get the
We're
response that
only
you want.
responding based upon the main.
Don't you guys ever compare people within the eras? Why don't you compare
But
people to people that's within their era?
Because they
When you start
putting him
talking
over
about people in
Tupac.
their era compared to people of an era before
but
them,
Ron,
think
you
about how many
yourself,
years we got to sit with that music, bro.
right? And Ron, you yourself, you said Section 80, and Good Kid, Mad City, To Pimp a Butterfly, and Damn, that people consider those classics. You said that, agreed to that too. Those are 4 albums in a row that are classic. Whatever artists don't have that, that's a loss right there. You know, so we compared a bunch of people that don't have 4 classics out the gate. So that's
Yeah, but
already a L.
everybody don't think it's 4 classics. That's why
Okay,
we
so
was
since
going.
we
That's
don't
why we
have
was doing
no
that comparison.
concrete metric, I think that we should judge an artist by
So
what
we
they
need
did
new
first
rules for Kendrick
and
Lamar now.
rethink
That's what
it.
I'm saying.
Because we
So
don't
now we
have no
need new
metric.
rules.
Ain't no
Now
metric in
we
hip
need
hop.
new
It's all
rules for Kendrick
emotional
Lamar.
based. It's
We
all
need new
emotional based.
we need new
You know?
rules, is what y'all saying. We got to judge
Nah,
him on a
man,
different
don't
standard than
move the
than
No,
we've been
but
goalposts.
I'm
Don't
saying,
move the
traditionally judging
goalposts. I said
everybody.
exactly what it was.
but Servan, I mean not Servan, Supa. If you play a sport and you played your game better than mine, if we both play basketball, but you played a better game last night than I played the night before in another team, you just played a better game. Now I could be the hotter player, but if you
I'm
played a
just,
better game, they're gonna rank you
we just
over
didn't we
me
just
because
didn't
you
pull us
played
out
a
of
better
thin.
game.
Only reason why we brought this topic up again was the response to the
I
mainstream
understand.
outlets putting out these lists, and people were running with it. You know what I'm saying? People was talking about it. I was on my
Don't
timeline
entertain those
saying,
lists,
and
man.
they were showing it, and that's the only reason why we talked about it, was the response to the mainstream media. That was it.
The
They
next
put
Go
the
Talk, I'm gonna explain how
What
that's
what's
possible.
causing that conversation? What the do you guys read Rolling Stone magazine?
only when
Depending
they
when
I
come
they
out
drop
with
don't.
lists.
something.
Only when
I
they
mean,
come
when
out
they
with lists, I
drop
read it.
something, I'll check out something. I don't
I
read them
used
all the
to.
Any of
time.
those
If it's
platforms that
something,
drop those lists, do y'all go to them for any other thing, any other time?
anytime
No,
they drop something that's
No.
important enough for me to care about, if it's something that I care about
So
and it catch my, I might
so
go to it.
why if you guys don't go to them no other time for anything, what gives them credibility all of a sudden because they drop a list of hip hop?
Because I'm mad,
Why do we
Servan.
care about what
That's
they
why.
think?
It's because we talk hip hop. This is a
But look,
podcast, bro. We talk hip hop and we
but
talk the moves that
Ron,
that get
Ron, Ron,
what we do.
I can't compare Scarface to Ghostface to Black Thought to Nas, or because that comparison is so far. I don't know where Scarface compares with Ghostface because they're so different. I don't know what I'm comparing. Do you know what I'm saying? I just don't know.
I just think
So
we
that's
know
what I'm saying.
we got to learn this. For me, I stick to the music. I don't like to go into a lot of extra deeper meanings and all that. I listen to the music. I understand the music, and I just rank stuff based on how I enjoy the music. So
Ghostface, Scarface. I don't know
yeah,
what
I
I'm
mean,
comparing.
I'm
what
just saying,
well,
like when you guys start getting to talking lists that's like of sites that we don't go to for nothing else credible with our music, as soon as they drop a list, bro, like you know what I'm saying? Like any other time, I don't compare artists. I don't. We for sake
That
of conversation,
comparison
for sake of
arguments
being on
are
here,
not
if
good.
they're not in the same realm of music, I don't do that because it's always going to be subjective. I mean, for fun, shits and giggles, we can get into it. But when we're starting talking about those lists, what the hell do they know about hip hop? We don't go
it's
to them
not
for nothing.
even just, but
They're
it's
not going
not
to
even
no
really
other
just.
time.
Savon, it's not even really just the list, though. You got a lot of people that are coming here and defend Eminem and say he's the GOAT. Or you got somebody that are coming here and say Kendrick Lamar is the GOAT. For a little while, it was Lil Wayne was the GOAT. Like, what makes these guys better than these guys? That's really like, it's not just one publication making one list, because Kendrick have been getting put on a lot of lists for a little minute now. And they putting him in position, and we should be able to discuss his position. We should be able to, without
But
being
but
said we hate
Super,
on him, or
Super,
without it offending the Kendrick Lamar fan, because we comparing him to
arguably,
the greats.
arguably,
I think
four
optimistic
classic
James.
albums in a row. Arguably, maybe five, four arguable classics in a row. That is kind of crazy if you think about that. That's wild.
Okay, well, let's compare them 4 classics to the other guys. That's the
That's
GOATs. Let's
Shout
wild.
out
do
to
the
Ye.
list. It's fine.
Ye's in our chat. Ye's in our chat. I don't know if y'all peep it, but Ye is this optimist. Ye is optimist. His alias is optimistic James. Shout out to Ye. Ye's in the chat. But that's real talk though. For real. I got wind of
The
that.
bozo.
But anyway, I'm gonna take us up out of here. I want to end up with 2 segments. I'm gonna start doing this every week. And y'all let me know if we can rock with this. I didn't tell y'all beforehand. I want to start highlighting other cities in hip hop. So tonight I want to just talk about Dallas and Fort Worth. They got a big scene going in Dallas and Fort Worth right now. There was an article in the Dallas Observer about the top 24 rappers in Dallas. Came out in December. I want to go through that. And then next week we're gonna bring back the we started about a year ago, we did the Tubi movie review. We're gonna bring the Tubi movie review back. And because it's the weekend, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna give you some movies, watch with your lady, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna talk about the Tubi movie review, but that's coming next week. But I'll give you one to watch this week so we can talk about it. Let me share my screen real quick. And y'all let me know if y'all heard of these artists, because I'm not really familiar with a lot of them. Y'all see my screen? Damn, hold on. Hold on.
Yeah.
What y'all see?
Trees.
Woods.
Man, what's going on? All right, there we go. Y'all see this now?
Yeah.
All right, so this is the top 30 rappers from the DFW. Shout out to DFW, my people out in the 214 area code, Dallas. You know what I mean? We got number 30 is Joseph. He's from Arlington. Not familiar with Joseph's record. If you know Joseph, let us know in the chat. Number 29 is Cuban Doll. Not familiar with her, but she does look interesting here.
She been
28,
out.
Gunna Maze. Gunna Maze. That he was with,
I've heard of him.
heard of Gunna Maze. I'm gonna check out Gunna Maze. Number 27 from the DFW, Head Honcho Amir.
I've heard
Not
of him
familiar
too.
with him. 26, Young Hood. 25, Rakim Al Jabbar. He is known as one of the most lyrically gifted artists in the DFW. We'll check him out. His conscious style meets hustle. Okay. Number 24 is Sensei Molly. Not really familiar with her. 23, Duro Music. Y'all know Duro Music.
Yeah, we've been out for a minute though.
22, Ty Harris. I heard of Ty Harris.
I heard of him before.
21, Road Run Simo. 20 is South Dallas Kiki. 19 is Cash Page. 18 is XB Valentine.
She had
17
horns on that hat.
Say it again.
I said she had horns on that hat.
Yeah, she got horns on her joint. 17 is Murder Gang P8. 16, Asian Doll.
I heard of Asian Doll, of course.
15, I heard of Go Yayo from
Yeah, I've heard of him too.
from Fort Worth, Texas. 14, Grind Too Hard OSHA. 13, Rosama. 12, Trap Boy Freddy.
Heard of him.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah.
11, Stepper.
Yeah, I mean, a
Number
lot of
10,
these guys just aesthetically they look the same. Just as far as just aesthetics of just thumbnails.
The look.
10, Two
Yeah.
Z's, little Two Z's.
They look like a bunch of LeVar Balls.
Yeah.
This one's interesting. Erica Banks.
I don't even say that to hate because I'm sure you probably great people, but I'm just saying the
I might check
look,
this.
like Busta Rhymes, he came out, his look was different. You might want to look different,
I might check this one out a little bit later. Erica Banks. We'll see what's going on with that.
You heard of Erica Banks from Dallas?
Yeah.
She signed to Carl Crawford.
Honey Gold, number 8. Number
Hey, y'all
7.
remember Honey Cocaine? What happened to Honey Cocaine?
I don't know what happened.
Yeah, Honey Cocaine was cool.
Oh man, I think they got her out of here for her use of nigga.
Yeah, did she go to jail or something like that, or something like
Nah, I think like she got that outrage. I think they hit her with the outrage thing because of her excessive use of using the N-word.
Little CJ Casino, number 7.
Asian, I believe, or something.
Number 6, Montana 700. Zillionaire Doe. Number 5.
He ain't lying. Watch Erica Banks. Yeah, her booty looking stupid.
4 is Tay Money. Tay Money, that's interesting. Oh man, Yellow Beezy number 3. Yellow Beezy just got arrested for Mo 3s.
That's a story.
Yellow 3. So yeah, he might be gone for a minute.
Yeah.
2 is Bash for the World. And number 1, Big X the Plug.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big S Plug, man. That's my guy, man. I like his music, man.
Shout
I
out
think
to
we
the
should do
DFW,
He's
man.
dope.
Shout out
we
to the
should do Detroit.
DFW.
We should do Detroit next because Detroit look like they'll wash them little dudes up.
Shout out to DFW. Oh, if you checking out some movies this
I don't know,
weekend,
man. I'm liking what's been coming out of Texas and Memphis, man.
it's crazy. It's crazy. On the movie front, Tyler Perry got a new joint, Duplicity. Check that out. It's on Amazon. But if you want to see a Tubi movie this weekend, we're gonna talk about it next week. Check out The Lawnmower Man. You will not be disappointed. It's about a man that's cutting grass in more ways than one. The Lawnmower Man. The
But look,
Lawnmower Man.
real quick though,
Check it
man.
out.
To the artists right now, if you all aesthetically look the same or similar, I think that could work against you. Just like he was scrolling through all the videos. If all of you have the same design of jewelry, have the same pose, have the same type of deal, I'm sure you're great, but you want to catch people's eye. Like when they see you, you want to catch them. So aesthetically, you're gonna have to change some stuff. You know what I mean? There's just hey, do what you want. But I'm just saying. You know what I
Anybody
mean?
anybody catch Cam movie? This movie Cam got added on Tubi
Nah,
too.
I haven't. It's a real
Nah,
I haven't
movie?
had the chance to check it out. Yeah, it's a real movie.
it's a
So
It's
real
a real
is it a
movie.
real movie?
It's a real
I
Nah,
movie.
thought
it
it
is.
was
It's a
a parody
real
it's
of
a
movie.
real
Pokemon.
movie.
Yeah. Nah, it's a real
Hell
movie.
nah.
It's a real movie.
Real movie. Real movie. But
I
yo,
wanna
we're gonna get up out of here tonight. Savon, final words. Then Leroy, then Super will close us out. Savon,
yeah,
final words, brother.
I want to start off by saying rest in peace, George Foreman, man. I seen while doing the show, it was broke that he passed away. And I didn't know that. So rest in peace, George Foreman,
Rest in
legend.
peace.
Um when it comes to the music part of everything, man, it's just like I always say I want to hear good music. Fans is gonna be fans. People are gonna debate. People are gonna have their opinions. But like I'm always gonna say we need to big up the good more than talk about the bad, man. Because if not, it's not gonna grow. It's always gonna be us diluting our own material. So let's big up the good better than the bad, and let's keep the ball rolling on that, man. I rather that, and that's all I gotta say.
Leroy.
All I could say is earlier we talked about the history of hip hop. History is important. You got to know it. You know what I mean? You got to know what happened before you got here because that's going to help. So learn the history. Hip hop had to do a lot of fighting. So it's just like, and today, the music really don't have no backbone. You want to be liked by everyone. The artists we came up on, they wasn't worried about being liked by everyone. They was worried about pissing people off. You know what I mean? But in a constructive way. So those are just two different things to look at. You know what I mean?
No doubt, Soup.
I mean, my final thought is, I think that us as traditional rap fans just would like for the younger generation to use all of the tools in the toolbox for their hip hop. You know what I mean? Like, don't just worry about doing one thing or another. Incorporate the game. You know what I mean? And use and know, like I said, Leroy said, know the history and incorporate some of the good parts to help you improve on making some better music. Because hip hop right now we in slow motion, man. We ain't really got no major new music right now yet. The industry is dying out. So we're gonna have to, like I keep saying over and over, we're gonna have to either reach back, dig in the crates, or we're gonna have to actively search out new artists that we do like to keep this shit moving forward. So that's really my parting words. You know what I'm saying? Respect the game and use every piece, every weapon you got to keep this shit going.
No doubt, man. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. Thank you for tapping in with us on a Friday night. We appreciate it. Check out The Lawnmower Man on Tubi. Shout out to Tyler Perry's movie, Duplicity, whatever it's called. Support that. We're gonna check out the Cameron film as well. Again, make sure you hit like and subscribe. We got some big things coming down the pipeline for y'all. Shout out to Savon. Shout out to Super Duper. Shout out to Leroy Green. We may be on for the weekend rhyme on a Sunday. It's my wife's birthday. So I gotta get some time in, but we gonna reschedule some things. You know what I'm saying? Ron gotta do some things real quick. But we'll be back in a couple of days. If not, we'll see you Monday. We'll see you next week. Y'all have a wonderful weekend. Appreciate you. Peace.
Sure.
Salute.
Peace. Have a good weekend.
Oh, the remix. My bad. Free with the super chat says, we can't leave the super chats out. Kendrick compares himself to Pac. Him and Cole constantly reference Pac and Nas, so they will be judged accordingly. We appreciate you, Free, for that. We'll talk about that on the next show. And then Mike H just showing us love with a super chat, man. We appreciate you, man. Just want to get those in real quick. All right, man. Peace.